Cultivation world where power is everything and I gain 1 upgrade point for every monster I kill. The early morning sun spilled over the worn rooftops of Eastwind District, casting long golden shadows over crooked buildings and dusty cobblestone roads. Birds called out across the rooftops, but inside one small apartment no one noticed. Lin Hai was running late. "Hi. Your uniform," his mother called from the tiny kitchen, waving a half-folded academy robe in one hand and a rice bun in the other. "And don't you dare skip breakfast again." "Coming." Lin Hai shouted back, hair still wet and sticking up from the sink. He bolted into the cramped living room, tripping over his shoes before snatching the robe from his mom's hands. "You're going to break your nose one of these days," his father muttered from the dining table, spooning porridge into a chipped bowl. His eyes, sunken and tired from night shifts at the armory, lingered on Lin Hai for a moment longer than usual. Lin Hai noticed. "I'll do fine today," he said, grinning as he tugged his robe straight. "It's just a minor test. Not even a dungeon run." His mom sighed, handing him the rice bun. "It's not just a test. It's the cultivation ranking exam. The academy only lets students with potential into the elite combat stream. Which means better techniques, better pills and maybe a faction scout noticing you," his father added. "We didn't work double shifts to see you settle for third-rate training halls." Lin Hai bit into the rice bun and gave a confident nod, though his hands were already sweating. He trained quietly in the old courtyard for months, practicing stances from an outdated manual instructor Jian had thrown out. He didn't have pills, fancy gear or elemental affinities, not yet. But he had grit. And today that had to count for something. "Thanks both of you," he said, voice softer now. "I won't waste what you gave me." His mom smiled, brushing hair from his face. "Go. Show them who Lin Hai is." Eastwind Academy stood like a fortress of white stone and black tiles, its central tower visible across half the city. The outer courtyard buzzed with students, some stretching, others meditating and a few already sparring under instructor supervision. "Hi. Oi slowpoke." A blur of green crashed into him from the side. Min Shui, bow slung lazily over her shoulder, grinned as she shoved a packet of dried meat into his hand. "You eat like a starving cat," she said. "You'll pass out before throwing a punch." "I had breakfast," Lin Hai protested. "Your mom's breakfast doesn't count." "No offense." They laughed, their shoulders bumping as they walked together through the academy gates. Despite the jokes, Lin Hai couldn't shake the pressure mounting in his chest. The cultivation exam wasn't just a placement. It decided which students received pills, weapon access and technique manuals. The elite stream got everything. And the others got to be errand runners. "All right, rookies," came the bark of Instructor Jian, a broad-shouldered man with graying hair and a staff taller than Lin Hai. "Listen up. Today's test will cover basic physical endurance, chi sensitivity, and live technique demonstration. If you faint, cry or vomit, do it outside the circle." Groans and nervous laughter rippled through the students. First section, stamina run. 5 laps around the training field. "Start." The whistle blew. Lin Hai ran. His lungs burned by the second lap. By the third his legs screamed. But he didn't stop. One by one students fell behind. Even Min Shui cursed and slowed by the 4th lap. Lin Hai kept going, jaw clenched, arms pumping. He crossed the finish line 27th out of 80. "Better than expected," Jian muttered, jotting something on his board. Next came chi sensitivity. A glowing orb sat atop a pedestal. One by one students approached, placing their palm on the crystal. Those with strong cores made it shine bright. Some sparked a glow. Others, nothing. When Lin Hai touched it, a soft blue shimmer pulsed, but weak. Barely enough for notice. A few students snickered. "Well, at least it registered," Jian said gruffly. "Barely. Could have been worse." Lin Hai clenched his fist but said nothing. He'd expected it. He didn't have a strong core, not yet. Then came the final test, technique demonstration. Students stepped into the ring one by one, showcasing whatever martial technique they'd learned, if any. Spinning kicks, palm strikes, sword swings. All graded by instructors on form, strength, and control. When Lin Hai's turn came, he stepped into the ring with shaking hands. "What will you demonstrate?" Instructor Jian asked, eyebrow raised. "Basic iron fist form." More snickers from the crowd. Lin Hai took his stance, legs rooted, arms coiled, chest rising. He struck forward, fist snapping with practiced rhythm. 3-hit combo. Twist. Elbow strike. He poured everything into it. When he finished, silence followed. Then Jian nodded. "Clean. Nothing fancy, but stable." That was all he said. Lin Hai stepped down, heart still racing. It wasn't much, but it wasn't failure. The crowd shifted. The test was ending. Just as Lin Hai passed the courtyard gate, a flicker caught his eye. A small black stone sat in the grass, half buried under a broken flagpole. It glimmered faintly, pulsing in rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. He bent down. The moment his fingers brushed the stone, a shock ran through his hand. His vision blurred. A soft chime echoed in his skull. System of 1, awakening complete. Welcome Lin Hai. You have earned 1 upgrade point. His knees buckled. A screen, blue glowing, floating in midair, flashed before his eyes. He opened his mouth but no sound came. And then everything went black. When Lin Hai opened his eyes, the world felt different. The sky above the training field was still a clear, cloudless blue, but something in the air shimmered faintly, threads of energy he hadn't noticed before. His body buzzed, not with pain, but an almost pleasant warmth, like sunlight filling his veins. He sat up. The small black stone was gone. In its place, embedded into the grass, was a faint scorch mark. System of 1, active. Upgrade point available, pending use. Warning, only 1 point can be held at a time. The glowing blue screen hovered calmly, its text etched in air. It didn't speak with a voice, but its presence was clear in his mind, quiet, composed, waiting. A system, Lin Hai whispered, eyes wide. Hi. You good? You passed out. Min Shui skidded to a stop beside him, panting from the sprint across the field. She dropped to one knee, grabbing his shoulder. Yeah, he said quickly, blinking the panel away. It vanished with a blink of thought. Just got dizzy. Must have been the heat. Min Shui frowned, unconvinced. You're always weird around shiny stuff. You touched something again, didn't you? Lin Hai didn't answer. Behind her, Instructor Jian approached with heavy steps. Still breathing? Good. Take a rest. The headmaster's coming. Rankings get posted today. Jian paused, studying Lin Hai's face for a moment, eyes sharp but unreadable, before moving on. The courtyard had shifted since the exams. Most students were now gathered beneath the central bulletin tower, where golden plaques hung from enchanted chains. Each plaque bore a name, a number, and a designation: combat stream, support stream, or reserve class. Most students stared in silence. A few shouted in triumph. Some wept. Lin Hai's heart thudded as he approached the crowd. There. Min Shui pointed. You're in number 43. Combat stream. He blinked. Really? You beat out nearly 40 other students, she said, smacking his arm. You're in the main group, dummy. That's real combat classes. Instructor Jian's training circle. You did it. Relief flooded him, hot, heavy, and sudden. His parents' sacrifices hadn't been in vain. He could grow stronger here. And you? He asked. Min Shui gave a smug grin. 12th place. Bao class elite. You're welcome for the meat packet. Lin Hai grinned back, though his smile faded as another voice cut through the air. Well. The peasant duo made it into combat stream. What a surprise. The voice belonged to Feng Tai, sharp-eyed, silver-haired, dressed in embroidered silk robes that clearly weren't standard issue. He stood with arms crossed, flanked by 2 other students who shared his sneer. Didn't expect much from a noodle-armed dirt farmer, Feng Tai continued, but I suppose even weeds can sprout if you throw enough pills at them. Lin Hai's jaw tensed. Say what you want. We'll see who earns their place. Oh, I intend to. Feng Tai leaned closer, eyes glinting. The academy holds live combat assessments next week. Try not to faint in the ring before we meet, peasant. He turned with a flourish, his robes swaying behind him like a cape. Min Shui muttered something under her breath involving exploding arrows and body parts. Lin Hai chuckled, then glanced toward the training towers. And again, just like before, he felt something. A pressure, a tingling at the edge of his senses. Back in the student quarters, Lin Hai finally had a moment of quiet. His assigned room was small but clean. Just a cot, a desk, and a rack for weapons he didn't yet own. He locked the door, sat cross-legged on the floor, and whispered, System. Status panel, Lin Hai. Realm, Chi Seed Realm, stage 1 of 9. Core type, unformed. Elemental affinity, unknown. Body, 10. Mind, 11. Energy, 12. Speed, 9. Luck, 1. Upgrade points, 1. Techniques, none. Inventory, low Chi recovery pill, X1. I can spend the point to upgrade something, he muttered, scanning the panel. There were no guides. No tutorials. Just possibilities. A flicker opened below the stat list. Available upgrade options. Technique mastery. Stat boost. Chi absorption efficiency. Weapon compatibility. Unlock hidden skill? Techniques first, Lin Hai said aloud. If I can't hit anything, none of the rest matters. The system shimmered and a glowing menu appeared. Select base technique. Flowing Iron Fist, unlearned. He hadn't technically mastered it, just mimicked parts of the old manual. Still, it registered. Flowing Iron Fist, basic technique, direct. Cost, 1 upgrade point. Effect, fully mastered. Integrated into muscle memory. Side effect, short-term Chi exhaustion after imprinting. He pressed confirm. Light exploded behind his eyes. His muscles convulsed. His arms burned as if submerged in fire. Then came clarity, perfect clarity, as every movement of the flowing Iron Fist played out in his mind over and over, until it settled into his bones. Technique learned, flowing iron fist, LV.1. When the pain faded, Lin Hai was breathing hard, drenched in sweat. He stood. Slowly he took the first stance, shifted his feet, coiled his arms. Then, strike, twist, elbow, step, slam. It was flawless. He felt it, power not imagined, not copied, but his. A knock sounded at his door. Tomorrow morning, Instructor Jian's voice came through. A low-tier dungeon opened at Black Hollow. First-year combat class, you're coming? Lin Hai didn't answer right away. He stared at his open hands. The cultivation world was vast, dangerous, unforgiving. But for the first time in his life, he felt ready. Night fell over Eastwind Academy, bringing a hush to the student quarters. The torches along the courtyard walls flickered gently in the breeze, casting long, uncertain shadows across the cobblestones. Lin Hai sat on his cot, hands wrapped in cloth, his breath still shallow from the imprinting of the flowing iron fist. He hadn't told anyone, not even Min Shui, about the system. It was too strange, too powerful, and if word got out, someone might try to take it from him. He stared at his hand again, curling it into a fist. Felt different now. When he moved, it wasn't just muscle, it was intention. Like his body knew how to fight before his mind could finish the thought. Status update. Upgrade point, 0. Flowing iron fist, LV.1. Mastered. Efficiency, 100%. Chi flow, stable. System, he whispered. How do I earn more points? Pause. Then glowing words shimmered into view. Upgrade point acquisition criteria. Survive a life-threatening battle. Clear a dungeon, solo or lead role. Attain insight during training or meditation. Break through cultivation bottleneck. Defeat enemy of higher cultivation realm. So no grinding easy fights. No farming weak monsters. Every upgrade point had to be earned through risk or breakthroughs. He leaned back against the wall. 1 point at a time, Most cultivators relied on chance, pills, or expensive scrolls to advance. But with this system he could master any weapon or skill, if he earned the right to. A slow grin crept across his face. It would be harder this way. But it would also be real. The next morning came with the sound of a gong, low, deep, and vibrating through the stone floors. Lin Hai jolted upright, already dressed. His nerves buzzed beneath his skin. The first real test awaited. The class gathered at the southern gate of the academy, where an armored wagon waited, hitched to 2 muscular beasts with ox-like bodies and reptilian eyes. Over 20 students stood in tight clusters, some yawning, others whispering nervously. Min Shui arrived with her bow strapped to her back, her quiver clicking with motion as she jogged up beside him. Dungeon day, she said mock grim. May we not be eaten? I thought you said this one was safe? Lin Hai asked. She shrugged. Safe-ish. Low-tier dungeon, yeah. But Instructor Jian said this one's a little unstable. Fluctuations in its core. That sounds bad. Probably is. Inside the wagon, the students sat on wooden benches as the city walls faded into the distance. Farmland gave way to rocky cliffs and pale fog. A few instructors rode beside them on horseback, weapons ready. Lin Hai kept glancing at the fog-shrouded hills beyond the window. Something about them felt hollow. As if the land itself held its breath. Suddenly, someone thumped the bench beside him. Feng Tai. Oh look. Dirt boy made it, he sneered, folding his arms. What miracle kept you breathing this long? Lin Hai ignored him. You know, the academy lets students withdraw from dungeon assignments, Feng Tai continued. You'd still get to live in the city. Sweep the streets. Sell roasted skewers. Not glamorous but fitting. Min Shui leaned in from the other bench. Say one more word, and I will glue your nostrils shut with chi resin. Try it, peasant, Feng Tai said, smirking. Lin Hai glanced at him calmly. I'm not scared of you. You should be. The smirk vanished. Out there in the dark? No rules. No instructors watching every move. Accidents happen. Lin Hai met his gaze steady. You're right. They do. Something in his voice, quiet, certain, made Feng Tai hesitate. Then the wagon jerked to a halt. Instructor Jian's voice rang out. We've arrived. Listen up. They disembarked at the base of a jagged canyon. A jagged tear shimmered between 2 stones, a swirling distortion in the air. The dungeon gate. Black Hollow Rift, Jian announced. Category, D rank. Terrain, underground caverns, moderate monster presence. He gestured to the gate. 2 groups. 10 students each. You enter, you stay together. Any cowardice or abandonment will result in immediate expulsion. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Instructors will observe from outside. If you die inside, it's your own damn fault. Lin Hai's group was assigned to Squad B, along with Min Shui and Feng Tai. Lucky me, Feng Tai muttered, cracking his knuckles. They formed up, each student clutching a standard-issue weapon. Iron sabers, short spears, or chi-treated gauntlets. Lin Hai chose a pair of iron knuckles, weighted but simple, and wrapped his hands. As they stepped toward the gate, Jian's voice rose again. Remember, what you earn in the dungeon is yours. Beast cores, fragments, rare drops. But so are the injuries. Go in weak, come out broken. Or don't come out at all. One by one, Squad B stepped into the gate. When Lin Hai passed through, he felt his body stretch, then snap into place like a rubber band. Cold air rushed over his skin. The dungeon smelled of damp earth and iron. They stood inside a twisting cavern lit by glowing moss. Far above, the ceiling arched like the inside of a beast's ribcage. Stay sharp, the lead student whispered. We don't know what's spawning today. Ahead, something growled. Lin Hai took his stance. The system was silent now, but he didn't need it to tell him. This was where the climb began. The dungeon was unnervingly quiet. Every step echoed down the stone corridors of Black Hollow Rift, swallowed quickly by the damp air and dim light. Strange moss clung to the walls in pale blues and greens, casting eerie glows that shimmered against the sharp rock. Lin Hai walked near the center of Squad B, fists clenched inside his weighted iron knuckles. His heartbeat matched his footsteps, steady, deliberate. Despite the shadows creeping along the walls, he felt focused. Every sense was sharp. The system of one was silent, but the flowing iron fist pulsed beneath his skin, humming with potential. Energy stable. Chi flow, 87%. No upgrade point available. Warning, dungeon core fluctuations detected. He didn't know what that last line meant, but it lingered in his mind. Something's wrong with this place, he murmured. Everything's wrong with dungeons, Min Shui whispered beside him. Especially ones that smell like moldy socks and monster spit. Feng Tai snorted from the front. If you're scared of the dark, go home. I'm scared of your breath, actually. Their hushed voices bounced off the walls as they moved deeper. 10 minutes in, the air changed. A low growl echoed from the next chamber, rough and wet, like stone being chewed by metal. Lin Hai paused, hand up instinctively. Even Feng Tai turned serious. Form up, the lead student said. Prepare to engage. The corridor widened into a shallow den. Bones littered the floor, broken, some cracked in half by teeth. Claw marks raked across the far wall. Then they saw it. A feral wolf. It stood taller than a man, its fur patchy and blackened like ash. Pale green light seeped from its eyes, and veins bulged along its legs, pulsing with corrupted chi. Monster identified. Feral wolf, Durank mutated. Health, 100%. Aggression, high. Additional targets detected. Pack number, 3. Pack? Someone said. Too late. 3 more wolves leapt from the side tunnels, snarling as they circled the squad. Chaos erupted. The first wolf charged, jaws snapping around the lead student's shield, knocking him back. 2 others darted in, forcing the formation to split. Min Shui loosed an arrow, direct hit to the side of one, but it kept moving like it didn't feel pain. Spread out, someone shouted. Flank them. Lin Hai ducked under a claw swipe, pivoted, and slammed a fist into the wolf's side. Crunch. It felt like punching stone. His flowing iron fist glowed faintly, energy rushing down his arm as his second strike hammered into the wolf's ribs. The beast yelped, stumbling. Successful strike, target structure damaged. Rib fracture. Flowing iron fist, 91% efficiency. High left. Min Shui shouted. Another wolf lunged. Lin Hai sidestepped and struck low, slamming his knuckles into its front leg. The bone snapped with a sickening pop. The beast tumbled, yelping in fury. But one student wasn't fast enough. Behind them, a wolf pounced onto a girl with twin daggers. She screamed, blades flailing, but the wolf's jaws clamped onto her shoulder, dragging her back. No. Lin Hai moved without thinking. He launched forward, spinning into a mid-air strike. His iron-coated fist smashed into the wolf's skull from above. The impact echoed through the cavern. Crack. The wolf fell dazed. Lin Hai pulled the girl free, dragging her behind a boulder. Blood soaked her robes. You're okay. Stay here. I'll finish this, he said. She blinked at him in shock, barely able to nod. Minor life threat prevented. System sync increased, plus 1%. Technique proficiency increased, flowing iron fist LV. 1 LV. 1.5. Another wolf rushed in, mouth foaming. Lin Hai met it head-on. His first strike hit its throat. Second jaw. Third heart. The creature dropped, twitching, then went still. The final wolf tried to retreat, only to catch Min Shui's arrow between its eyes. Silence returned to the cave. Breathing heavy, blood dripping from scraped knuckles, Lin Hai scanned the fallen. 3 wolves dead. 1 heavily wounded, limping in a corner. 4 students injured, 1 seriously. But no deaths. Not this time. Feng Tai walked over slowly, eyeing Lin Hai. For once, no insult came. He just nodded. Then turned away. After applying salves and bandages, the group huddled near the center of the den. Instructor Jian's voice echoed faintly from a crystal embedded in the wall. You survived the first wave. Not bad. You've got more ahead. Those mutated wolves aren't normal. Stay sharp. If you see black veins or glowing green chi, don't hesitate, kill it fast. You'll exit when the dungeon core recognizes your control. That means you must defeat the next wave. Manhwa muttered, how about we bribe the core instead? Lin Hai chuckled softly, wiping blood from his wrist. Despite the tension, his hands didn't shake. He felt clearer now, sharper. Like the fight had peeled something open in him. No system point yet, but something had changed. Stat adjustment. Body +1. Speed +1. Energy +2. You are evolving. He stood slowly. The wolves hadn't been ordinary monsters. And he doubted the next encounter would be any easier. But he was ready. The deeper they went, the warmer it became. Not heat from fire, heat from chi, thick and choking. It clung to Lin Hai's skin, stuck in his lungs like wet smoke. The moss along the walls dimmed, shifting from green to faint red, casting the corridor in a blood-like glow. They had reached the dungeon's heart. Ahead stood a cavern chamber, circular and massive. In the center rose a black obelisk, cracked and pulsing faintly. Roots of crystallized chi webbed out from its base, spreading across the floor like veins. The dungeon core, Manhwa whispered. It looked sick, twisted. Around it, fragments of bone and broken beast shells formed a crude nest. Instructor Jian's voice echoed from the wall crystal again. This is your final test. One elite remains. Clear the core zone and the dungeon will collapse safely. Be prepared. This thing took down a full team last month. Don't underestimate it. The crystal dimmed. Silence returned. Lin Hai stepped forward. Everyone spread out. Keep distance. Min, take the high rock on the left. Feng Tai, he paused. Watch our right flank. Feng Tai raised an eyebrow but said nothing. He moved without complaint. The others fell into formation. Lin Hai exhaled, steadying his stance. Then the monster arrived. It slithered down from the ceiling, a fusion of serpent and panther, scaled in red-black stone, with glowing lines of corrupted energy dancing under its skin. Its eyes were pure white, blind, but it turned toward them with precision. Boss identified, hollow-scale beast, D+ rank, mutated core guardian. Health, 145%. Mutation trait, chi disruption aura. Special ability detected, spirit shriek, low mind shock. It roared, not just in sound but in spirit. Lin Hai staggered, clutching his temples as pain lanced through his skull. Two students behind him collapsed to their knees, vomiting. The hollow scale launched forward. Scatter! Lin Hai yelled. Feng Tai met the beast head-on, spear driving forward. Sparks flew as the tip scraped harmlessly off its stone hide. It's like hitting a wall, he shouted. Manhwa fired. Her arrow ricocheted. Lin Hai narrowed his eyes, watching the lines of chi along the creature's side, like flowing cracks in armor. There, he shouted. Aim for the underbelly, it's where the chi is unstable. The hollow scale lunged at Manhwa's perch. Lin Hai dashed forward, flowing iron fist igniting along his arms. He struck, first hit into the ribs. The chi shimmered. The beast felt that. Second hit, under its shoulder where plates hadn't fully fused. Weak point hit, armor integrity reduced, 8%. Technique sync increased. The hollow scale twisted, tail slamming into Lin Hai and flinging him across the cavern. He crashed against stone, coughing blood. But he stood again. A glint caught his eye, a student at the core. Wait, what are you doing? It was a boy named Ren, quiet until now. He was gripping a glowing shard lodged into the obelisk base, a dungeon core fragment. I need this, Ren stammered. My family, my clan, if I return without something they'll cast me out. Put it down. Lin Hai barked. That fragment stabilizes the dungeon. If you pull it now. Too late. The shard ripped free. The core screamed. The ground shook as veins of light along the chamber floor cracked wide open. The hollow scale shrieked, body swelling, eyes glowing brighter. Warning, mutation level increased. Health restored to 100%. Second form activated. The beast grew larger, plates shifting, tail splitting into two. We're dead, someone whispered. Lin Hai forced himself upright. No, he muttered. We're not. The system chimed. Unique trigger met. Led team to survive against mutated boss in core collapse event. Upgrade point earned. 1. System action available, choose upgrade. He grit his teeth. Blood dripped from his arm. Everyone was looking at him. If I don't use it now we all die. System, enhanced technique. Enhancing, flowing iron fist LV. 2. New effect unlocked, chi penetration, bypass minor armor. Bonus, shockwave on third hit combo. Power surged. His body felt electric, every nerve alive, every breath sharp. He moved, step, pivot, strike. The hollow scale turned too late. Lin Hai struck 3 times in rapid succession, first 2 to stagger, the third to shatter. Crack. Chi erupted from his fist like a miniature explosion. The beast roared as its side caved inward. Manhwa fired again. Her arrow struck true, this time penetrating. Feng Tai launched in with a final spiraling thrust. The hollow scale convulsed, then crumbled into black stone. Silence. The core pulsed once, then calmed. Dungeon clear, core stabilized. Exit gate activated, collapse prevented. Participants eligible for loot distribution. Bonus reward? Delivered to system inventory. They stood in the stillness. No one spoke for a long moment. Then someone clapped. Slowly. They turned. Above the dungeon exit, far above, standing on a high ledge where no one should have been, a figure in a gray mask and black robe stood watching. They didn't move. Didn't speak. Then vanished into mist. Back outside, the class emerged into sunlight. Lin Hai's robes were torn, his knuckles bloodied, but he walked tall. Instructor Jian gave a low whistle. Didn't expect survivors. Much less victory. He glanced at Lin Hai. You led them? Lin Hai just nodded, still catching his breath. Not bad. Peasant. There was no insult in his tone. Just respect. That night, in the quiet of his room, Lin Hai sat by the window, Kuro curled on his shoulder, silent, watching the moon. He opened the system. Status panel, Lin Hai. Realm, Chi Seed Realm, Stage 2 of 9. Body, 11. Mind, 12. Energy, 14. Speed, 10. Luck, 1. Techniques. Flowing Iron Fist, LV. 2. Chi Penetration. Inventory. Low Chi Pill X1. Dungeon Fragment, unidentified? Tier. And one message blinking at the bottom. You are being watched. Lin Hai closed the screen, breath steady. He had stepped into the world of warriors. And there was no turning back. 2 days had passed since the dungeon trial. The wounds had mostly healed, on the body at least. But Lin Hai still felt the sting of the hollow-scale beast's roar in his bones, like a memory trying to become a scar. He sat in the academy's rear garden, a quiet corner behind the training tower where the stone paths gave way to soft grass and sun-warmed benches. Birds sang nearby. Wind rustled the trees. But his eyes weren't on nature. They were on the shard in his hand. It pulsed faintly, red and gold veins running through a black crystal body, no larger than a peach pit. The dungeon fragment was supposed to be inert. That's what Instructor Jian had said. But Lin Hai had kept this one hidden. He hadn't told the guild. Or the instructors. Not even Manhwa. Because when he held it, he heard things. Not voices. Not words. Just presence. Listening. Kuro sat on the grass nearby, tail twitching. His sleek fur bristled as the fragment glowed. Still don't like it? Lin Hai asked quietly. Kuro growled low in his throat. Same, Lin Hai muttered. System alert, unstable energy detected. Source, dungeon fragment, tier? Trace energy signature, residual entity chi. Status, memory locked, integrity, 7%. Memory? Lin Hai frowned. It's alive? Unknown. Fragment may contain encoded battle consciousness or sealed inheritance. Interaction risk, moderate. Caution, further exposure may trigger synchronization. He stared at the shard. Something about that last word, synchronization, chilled him. Before he could decide whether to put it away, the world tilted. The garden faded. Light dissolved into dark. He was standing somewhere else. A field of broken stone. Ruins stretched to the sky, black spires cracked and slanted, like ribs piercing the heavens. Fires burned in the distance and the air tasted like ash and metal. At the center stood a massive, bleeding obelisk. It screamed without sound. And kneeling before it were humans, hundreds, faces bowed, their bodies trembling under a sky that writhed like water. Above them something vast moved. It had no face, no name, just weight, presence, watching. One became many. Many betrayed one. And so the fragments scattered. The voice did not speak, it burned into his skull. Lin Hai staggered. The vision shattered. He gasped, falling back into the grass, breath coming in shallow bursts. Kuro was instantly beside him, hissing at the shard. System alert, synchronization rejected. Memory echo level, 1. Passive trait acquired, echo sense. Description. You now faintly perceive corrupted chi in your environment. Stronger echoes may induce visions. Upgrade point not earned. Lin Hai sat up slowly, sweat running down his neck. What was that place? Kuro didn't answer, but the fur on his back hadn't settled. Something about the fragment was tied to the monsters. To the world before the dungeon existed. And now it was inside his pocket, whispering. That night, Lin Hai tried to sleep. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, the face of the masked figure from the canyon surfaced. The stone obelisk. The kneeling humans. And one phrase, etched behind his eyes like a brand. The fragments remember. He didn't know what it meant. But he had a feeling, it wasn't going to let him forget. By morning, the sky over Eastwind Academy had shifted from pale blue to an uncertain gray. Rain threatened the horizon, though none fell yet. The air was heavier than usual, thick like the world was holding its breath. Lin Hai moved quietly through the training yard, passing students still wiping sleep from their eyes. He hadn't told anyone about the vision or the fragment's voice. Not yet. Not when something bigger had just shaken the academy. It started with whispers. One student hadn't shown up for morning drills. Then another was missing from the third-year roster. By noon, 2 names were posted on the academy absence board, a rare and ominous thing. Eastwind didn't tolerate truancy. No student had ever missed a day without official notice. Infirmary didn't take them. Their dorms are untouched, Min Shui whispered, glancing around as she and Lin Hai waited in line for sparring rotation. You think they ran? Not likely, Lin Hai said. Not with how locked down the gates are. They say someone saw a shadow near the north training yard last night. Tall figure, cloak, no face. Lin Hai stiffened. She caught his reaction. What? I think I saw them too. In the dungeon. Watching. Her eyebrows lifted. Wait. Are you saying this masked creep followed us out of a dungeon gate? I don't know. Great, she muttered, not joking for once. Love that for us. They stepped onto the practice mats as Instructor Jian barked out names. Saber drills. Pairs of 2. Let's see who can actually swing a blade without chopping their own foot off. Lin Hai took a plain iron saber from the rack. Felt wrong. Heavy in a way that didn't fit him. But he gave it a try, facing off with Min Shui, who wielded a training staff with a bit too much glee. Try not to lose a finger, she warned. Same to you, he said, adjusting his grip. They exchanged a dozen blows. Min Shui was fast and precise, spinning the staff with finesse. Lin Hai blocked, countered, swung. But nothing felt right. The blade moved slower than his instincts. His footwork stumbled trying to compensate. His strikes lacked the connection he felt when using fists. After 5 minutes he lowered the saber. I'm switching back, he muttered. She raised a brow. Giving up already? It's not my weapon. She nodded slowly. You always did fight like a cornered badger. He gave a tired smile. As the class rotated, Lin Hai returned the saber and picked up a set of reinforced gauntlets instead. Heavy, padded with chi-threaded leather, fitted with knuckle plates. His hands settled into them naturally. He exhaled. Now this felt right. Later that day, the students were gathered in the central training hall. Head instructor Yen, bald, broad, and scarred, stood at the podium, voice sharp as iron. The midterm trial is set. Every combat stream student will be assigned a solo dungeon gate, one personalized to your realm and performance. The room buzzed with energy. Those who succeed may advance ranks, earn reward artifacts, or gain entry into external sect trials. Those who fail, he let the pause stretch, may retake the exam next year. Groans erupted. Your assignments will be handed out tomorrow morning. Prepare accordingly. Pill requests are limited. Weapon loans are 1 per student. A second instructor stepped forward, handing out documents with crimson seals. Min Shui squinted at hers. You're kidding? Forest-type dungeon again? What's wrong with that? Lin Hai asked. Everything. Trees. Bugs. Snakes. Trees. Mostly the trees. Lin Hai opened his assignment scroll. Simple parchment. Gold trim. Then his eyes narrowed. Black Vein Cavern, he read aloud. Solo clearance. Estimated duration, 3 to 6 hours. Mutation risk, moderate. Reward tier, variable. Min Shui whistled low. That's not beginner level. I know. And yet, something about the name sounded familiar. Not just familiar, wrong. That evening, Lin Hai sat alone in the weapon yard, fists wrapped, practicing movements. Flowing iron fist felt stronger than ever, cleaner, faster. His body had started moving before his mind gave the order. Strike, elbow, step, slam. Each movement bled into the next. The system remained quiet. But Kuro, now resting near the edge of the sparring ring, suddenly lifted his head. He growled. Lin Hai paused, scanning the shadows. Nothing there. Only wind brushing the training flags, stirring dust from the stones. But he couldn't shake the feeling that someone, was watching him again. That same pressure from the dungeon. Heavy. Silent. Waiting. Back in his dorm room, Lin Hai checked his fragment again. It was cold. Dormant. But his system blinked once. Fragment echo stable, no new memory triggers. Note, caution advised during solo dungeon trial. Environmental anomaly risk increased. Why is everything a risk with you? He muttered. Kuro blinked lazily from the bed. The cat beast's ears twitched once. Then he curled up again. Sleep didn't come easily that night. And when it did, it came with shadows. The next morning began with the scent of rain on stone. A light drizzle kissed the flagstones of Eastwind Academy as students filtered into the indoor training hall, where reinforced walls and chi-forged flooring allowed safe technique practice. Lin Hai arrived early, determined to sharpen every edge before the solo dungeon trial. Kuro curled beside the open window overlooking the courtyard, tail twitching lazily. Instructor Jian's voice thundered across the hall. Today you'll each take a turn at the chi resonance orb. It tests the purity, flow, and pressure of your internal energy. Controlling your chi isn't just about strength, it's about stability. If you can't keep your flow steady, a real technique will rip your insides apart. A large glowing sphere sat atop a carved pedestal at the center of the hall. It shimmered like frosted glass, rotating slowly, threads of pale blue light curling inside it. Each student would place a hand on it and direct a stream of chi into the core. The orb would pulse in response, bright and strong for those with control, dull or chaotic for those who lacked discipline. Lin Hai stepped into line, heart steady. He'd practiced control, trained flow, refined every movement down to breath and muscle. But his fragment was still in his pocket. When his turn came, Lin Hai stepped forward and placed his palm on the surface. The orb felt cold. Not unpleasant, just empty. He closed his eyes, directing a slow stream of chi forward. The light pulsed, soft but smooth. Controlled. Then something pulsed back. His fragment flared. A second wave of chi, not his own, rushed up his arm. Foreign, sharp, laced with something wrong. The orb convulsed. A high-pitched whine filled the room as the sphere flared red, its rotation accelerating. Sparks danced across the surface as unstable energy crackled outward in a burst. Boom. The pedestal cracked. Lin Hai was thrown back, skidding several feet before rolling to a stop. Gasps filled the room. Instructor Jian was already at his side, kneeling. "Are you injured?" Lin Hai coughed, his vision spinning. "No. I think I'm okay." Jian's eyes narrowed. "What did you channel into the orb?" I don't know. It was normal at first. Then something else pushed through me." Jian rose, turning to the damaged orb. Its light had dimmed, the glass now cracked through the center. "That wasn't normal. That was corrupted chi." He turned to Lin Hai. "I've seen that kind of disruption before, in mutated beasts, or dungeons that bleed into the mortal world." The room was silent. Every eye was on Lin Hai. After drills, Instructor Jian approached Lin Hai alone near the armory racks. "You're holding something back," he said, voice low. "Your control is too clean to misfire like that unless there's interference." "I didn't mean to. I'm not asking for excuses." Jian's gaze pierced through him. "I don't know what you've touched. But if it threatens this academy, I will find out." He turned and walked away, leaving Lin Hai with a heavy weight of suspicion. That night, Lin Hai sat in his dorm, staring at the fragment. System analysis complete. Status, dormant. Interference risk, reduced. Residual chi signature. Inert, echo level stable. Whatever it had done earlier was gone now. And yet something felt off. Even Kuro refused to sleep near it, hissing every time it pulsed with light too faint for the eye to see. He tucked it away again beneath a loose floor tile. Just in case. Hours later, well past midnight, the door creaked open. Lin Hai's eyes snapped open instantly. He hadn't locked it, but it was supposed to auto-seal at night. Only instructors or emergency healers should have had access. Footsteps. Slow. Soft. Someone was inside. Kuro, asleep at the foot of the bed, lifted his head and hissed. Lin Hai slid silently from the sheets, grabbing his knuckle guards from beneath the pillow. His feet touched the ground without a sound. The figure stood in the doorway, tall, cloaked, their face hidden behind a hood made of shifting shadows. No metal. No chi presence. Just cold. It moved forward. Not walking, gliding. Lin Hai struck first. He lunged forward, a perfect flowing iron fist combo, aimed straight at the figure's chest. Impact. The body shuddered, but it was like hitting fog. The figure swirled, twisting unnaturally around the strike, reforming on the other side. Its hand came up, long clawed, dripping with black chi. Kuro leapt between them, fangs flashing. The claw swiped, and missed. Kuro's attack struck true, his shadow-infused form biting through the intruder's shoulder. The figure hissed, stumbling back. Lin Hai pressed in, shifting his stance, remembering the weak points he'd studied. Knees, joints, neck. Another hit, this time a chi-infused elbow strike, landed at the base of the figure's neck. The creature screamed, high and unnatural, and burst into dark mist. Gone. The room was silent again. Kuro landed on the floor, eyes glowing faintly. Lin Hai's heart was hammering. He rushed to the hidden tile and checked the fragment. Still there. Untouched. Status alert, external interference repelled. Reward, chi thread +1. Passive skill unlocked, instinctive guard. Once per day automatically react to unseen threats. May act independently of user's conscious mind. He sat down hard, breathing shallow. What had that thing been? Not a student. Not an instructor. It hadn't even felt fully real. As dawn approached, Lin Hai finally allowed himself to sleep. But now he knew something for certain. Whatever power the fragment carried, someone, or something, was trying to take it from him. And they weren't going to stop. Morning sunlight filtered through the academy windows, but it did little to warm Lin Hai's thoughts. He sat on the edge of the infirmary bed, shirt torn, a shallow cut across his shoulder still bleeding sluggishly from the intruder's claw. He'd managed to clean it with a minor salve, but the chi behind the wound burned strangely, as if it resisted healing. Stop moving, a soft voice said behind him. Or I'll have to bind you to the bed like a loose chicken. Lin Hai blinked. A girl in violet robes moved around him with practiced hands, her long black hair tied back in a simple braid. A thin herbal scent clung to her robes, chi-soaked lavender, used to calm nerves and purify minor poisons. You're Ruelan, Lin Hai said. And you're the student who overcharged the resonance orb yesterday, nearly blew it apart, and came here without reporting who clawed you in your sleep, she replied, not looking up. You've been briefed. I'm in the pill division, but my family funds the Academy's spiritual injury research wing. Let's just say I hear things I'm not supposed to. She pressed a warm, glowing hand to his shoulder. The burning faded slightly. This claw mark, she murmured, isn't beast-based. I know. She gave him a long look, her eyes sharp despite her calm tone. You fought something last night, didn't you? Lin Hai hesitated. I didn't fight it. I survived it. Was it a student? No. Cultivator? Not exactly. Silence. She placed a silver charm against the wound, a crescent moon inlaid with a tiny jade core. The charm crackled, reacting violently. Ruelan cursed and tossed it away. The jade turned black within seconds. Corrupted chi signature confirmed, she muttered. And deep enough that my normal threads won't hold for long. I figured. She finally stepped back. What did you bring out of the dungeon? Lin Hai paused. She waited. I don't know exactly, he admitted. But it's not just a fragment. It reacts to everything, dungeons, chi fields, even people. Can I see it? No. She didn't flinch. All right. That surprised him. You're not going to push? Ruelan shook her head, moving to clean her tools. Secrets are currency. Especially here. But I'd be careful if I were you. There's movement in the academy. What kind of movement? Strange injuries. Students collapsing during meditation. Lab rooms being sealed off with no announcement. Energy residue they can't trace. And not just in the combat stream. My instructor found a tunnel beneath the eastern wall that wasn't supposed to exist. Her voice dropped lower. There's something in the walls, Lin Hai. Something old. He said nothing. Because he already knew. The fragment had shown him things. Ruins. Worshippers. Faceless giants. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a small, sealed pill vial, the one Ruelan had handed him earlier. The symbol etched into the cork wasn't Academy standard. A moon sigil. I didn't notice this earlier, he said. Your family uses this? Ruelan nodded. It's ours. Lan family seal. He opened the vial and downed the chi recovery pill. Heat rushed through his limbs, not violent like pills from the outer markets. This was calm. Centering. His vision sharpened slightly. Chi recovery, 12%. Status stabilized. System alert. Energy balance optimal for meditation. Suggestion. Memory echo may deepen if user focuses under moon-aligned purification chi. Warning. Visions may destabilize emotional state. Proceed with caution. Can I borrow your training alcove? He asked. Ruelan raised a brow. You're meditating now? If I don't try, I'll spend the rest of the day wondering what it's hiding. She gestured to the corner room. Don't blow the ceiling off. It's an antique. The meditation alcove was circular, carved into the rear wall of the infirmary like a hollowed stone egg. Chi-inscribed bricks glowed faintly, and calming incense wafted through vents in the ceiling. Lin Hai sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and summoned the fragment into his hand. It pulsed faintly warm, waiting. He breathed deeply, channeling chi through his spine, allowing his thoughts to clear. The world melted. This time the vision came quickly. A shattered temple. Black fire burning on broken altars. Columns of stone carved with eyes. Dozens, hundreds watching. And at the center, a cloaked figure stood in prayer. Its face shifted. Morphed. Never the same shape twice. Lin Hai approached. As he neared, the figure turned. And he saw himself. You hold what they tried to bury. You hear what they sealed. You will be marked. The world warped. Chains slithered from the altar and wrapped around his limbs. Not metal, light, but they burned all the same. Behind the figure, thousands of others stood. Wearing masks. Empty-eyed. All chanting the same name. Whispering eyes. Lin Hai screamed, and snapped back to reality. He stumbled from the alcove, drenched in sweat, heart thundering. Ruelan caught him by the arm before he could fall. What happened? They have a name, he gasped. The ones behind this. The ones in the academy. She stared at him. What name? Whispering eyes. Her face went pale. Where did you hear that? I saw it, he said. In the vision. It wasn't just memory, it was living. I was in their temple. They're not just in the dungeons. They're here. Ruelan looked toward the window, toward the training towers beyond. Then she whispered, almost to herself. My uncle said that name once, before he disappeared. That night, Lin Hai sat in his dorm with Kuro curled in his lap. The fragment was tucked away again, hidden under layers of cloth and bone warding. But the mark was already there. He rolled up his sleeve. On the inside of his forearm, a faint shimmer burned beneath his skin. A sigil only visible when exposed to moonlight. Not physical. Not removable. And shaped like an open eye. The mark did not fade with sleep. When Lin Hai woke the next morning, moonlight had long vanished, but the faint burn on his forearm still lingered, like a coal beneath the skin. Not painful but present. Watching. System alert, unregistered entity signature detected. Condition, subdermal mark, sigil class, level 1. Type, passive binding. Source, unknown, fragment resonance suggestion. Cult signature, whispering eyes. Status, contained. Temporary action, suppression barrier initiated. Warning, prolonged exposure will eventually override system safeguards. Time to break, approximate, 21 days. 21 days. 3 weeks before the mark grew beyond the system's ability to contain it. 3 weeks before, what? He didn't want to know. He met Min Shui in the dining hall, trying to act normal. The tables were half full with students hunched over steaming bowls of rice porridge and reheated buns. The usual noise, the shouts, the jokes, the complaints, was muted. The disappearance of the students had shaken everyone. So had the rumors of the cracked resonance orb. Min Shui slid into the bench across from him, eyeing him closely. You look like you haven't slept. I didn't, Lin Hai admitted, keeping his sleeves down. I was going to say something dumb and cheerful, but now I'm worried. He smiled faintly. Save it for after the trial. I'll need it then. She reached into her satchel and tossed him a pill wrapped in cloth. Qi concentration booster. Black lotus seed base. Don't waste it. Where'd you get this? Jade root sect market runner. Don't ask what I traded for it. He pocketed it. Thanks. Just don't die. No promises. As soon as breakfast ended, the scroll arrived. A messenger from the instructors entered the dining hall with a bundle of crimson-sealed parchment. He called names one by one. Min Shui, Whisper Grove Hollow. Wood Affinity Dungeon. She grinned and nudged Lin Hai. Trees again. Joy. Lin Hai, Black Vein Cavern. The moment the name echoed through the hall, silence fell. Students glanced up from their meals. Some whispered. Others looked away. The messenger added, solo clearance only. Departure in 1 hour. No one said it out loud, but Lin Hai heard the message between the lines. That dungeon is cursed. Back in his dorm he prepared. Iron knuckles, polished and reinforced. Gauntlet wraps. Basic rations. 3 low-tier chi recovery pills. 1 mid-tier booster from Min Shui. And the fragment. He stared at it for a long time before tucking it inside a layered cloth pouch, hidden under his robes, sealed in a satchel lined with anti-echo tags he'd begged off a guild vendor weeks ago. It wasn't perfect, but it would have to do. Kuro climbed into his satchel, curling into a tight ball. You're sure you want to come? Kuro blinked once. Didn't think so. Before he left, he stopped by Rue Lan's lab room. The door was closed, a moon-shaped charm dangling from the handle. It glowed faintly when he touched it. Inside, a small note had been pinned to the wall with a spirit needle. Asterisk, be careful. Whispers aren't always lies. They'll offer you power, but it comes wearing your face. Aro. Asterisk. He folded it and slipped it into his belt. At the outer gate, Instructor Jian stood with arms folded, waiting beside the shimmering dungeon rift. On time, he grunted. Good. You don't look surprised. I figured you'd come even if you weren't ready, but you look different. Lin Hai raised a brow. Stronger? No, Jian said, narrowing his eyes. Heavier. Like something settled on you. He stepped closer. If you've picked up something cursed, now's your last chance to drop it. I can't, Lin Hai said honestly. It's not that simple anymore. Jian studied him for a moment. Then handed him a jade talisman carved with the Eastwind crest. Break this if the core goes unstable. We'll try to pull you out. Try. No guarantees. Lin Hai took it with a nod. He stepped toward the rift. It shimmered like liquid glass, reflecting a warped version of himself. One where the eyes looked older, the face sharper, the burden heavier. He breathed in once, steady and clean. Then walked through. The world shifted instantly. Gone was the gray sky, the scent of morning rain. Instead, darkness. The dungeon air was thick and wet. The floor slick with algae and bones. The walls pulsed with veins of black or that glowed faintly red, like a heartbeat. Ahead, stairs descended into a narrow corridor that curved like a tunnel carved by something alive. A single whisper echoed faintly through the cavern. Not from behind him. Not from above. But from inside his own mind. You came. He reached for his knuckles. Kuro hissed softly in the satchel. Solo dungeon activated, Black Vein Cavern. Realm classification, D+. Core status, corrupted, stabilizing. Environmental hazard, spiritual drain. Estimated completion time, 4 hours. Optional objective, locate echo seal. Reward tier, variable. Bonus? Fragment interaction detected. Lin Hai stood in the shadows of the gate, watching the darkness curl around him. This wasn't a normal trial. This was a test of more than strength. A test of will. Of control. Of identity. Status stable. Upgrade points, 0. You are watched. You are marked. You are not alone. The first thing Lin Hai noticed was the silence. Not the stillness of a quiet forest or the calm before battle, but a suffocating, living silence. As if the dungeon itself listened. As if each breath he took echoed louder than it should. His boots slid slightly on the damp stone floor as he stepped forward. The walls pulsed with crimson lines, slow and irregular, like a dying heartbeat. It reminded him of the fragment, the same twisted glow, the same wrong rhythm. The dungeon corridor narrowed, forcing him to duck under a cluster of sharp black roots jutting from the ceiling. They hummed faintly with residual chi. Spiritual drain detected, passive chi loss. 0.3% per minute. Environmental condition, mild corruption. Current status, stable. Lin Hai clenched his fists tighter. So just walking drains me. Kuro shifted in the satchel, growling low. The system was silent. He moved slowly down the curving path, senses open. He didn't speak. Didn't think too loud. The fragment in his satchel felt heavier than before, and something deep in his chest whispered caution with every step. After 10 minutes, the corridor widened into a cavern chamber. He froze at the entrance. Bones. Hundreds of them, strewn in spirals across the floor, skulls cracked clean in half, ribs shattered like splintered wood, arms curled in the same twisted angle as if they'd all died reaching for something just out of reach. At the center of the chamber stood a stone pedestal, and atop it, a mirror. Oval, rimmed in tarnished silver, the glass inside was cracked. Black ooze dripped from its frame like blood from a wound. As Lin Hai stepped closer, the temperature dropped. A low sound echoed from the mirror. Breathing. His own reflection moved before he did. It raised a hand first, then smiled. His smile didn't. Echo entity detected, mirror type. Classification, manifested ego, low rank. Threat, moderate. Warning, do not allow sustained visual contact. Risk, mental invasion. Lin Hai backed up immediately. But it was too late. The mirror pulsed, and the reflection stepped out. It looked exactly like him. Same robes. Same build. Same face. But the eyes were hollow. Like someone had taken the spark of will and filled it with shadow. The echo Lin Hai moved with perfect technique, stepping into a flowing iron fist stance identical to his own. Lin Hai cursed and pulled his knuckle guards tight. Figures you'd copy my best move. The echo didn't reply. It struck. Fast. Lin Hai barely parried in time, the impact jarring through his arm. The creature knew his timing, his rhythm. It was him, but without hesitation. Without doubt. He dodged a sweeping strike, ducked under a mirrored elbow jab and countered with a punch to the ribs. It connected, but the echo didn't flinch. No pain. It spun low, tripping him. He rolled, barely avoiding a stomp that cracked the stone where his head had been. I'm not you, he growled, regaining his footing. I'm better. The system flickered alive. Unique encounter, self-echo, first time. Opportunity, insight trial, survive to completion. Bonus reward, +1 upgrade point plus passive skill. He had to endure. Not defeat. Survive. Lin Hai shifted his style. Instead of striking first, he baited, letting the echo move aggressively, then parried, using its own momentum to create distance. His heart pounded, but his mind calmed. Strike. Block. Twist. Step. Time blurred. The echo grew faster. Angrier. And then, its form began to distort. Its face cracked. Its arms split at the elbow, dripping with black smoke. It shrieked, half human, half something else. Not perfect, huh? Lin Hai said, chest heaving. Figures. He ducked the next blow and slammed both fists into its chest with full force. Chi flared. Boom. The echo shattered like glass. The mirror cracked fully, its surface going dark. Insight trial completed. Manifested ego resisted. Upgrade point earned. 1. Passive skill acquired. Battle reflection. LV. 1. Description. After fighting an enemy for 30 seconds, learn a portion of their technique rhythm. System tip. To grow stronger, you must know what you fear becoming. Lin Hai fell to one knee, sweating, breath ragged. But he was alive. And stronger than before. As he rose, the stone beneath the mirror shifted, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a folded scrap of parchment, sealed with red wax. He broke it open. Inside were just 5 words. The mark has awakened you. Kuro hissed again. Lin Hai stood in the gloom, the black roots pulsing above. He was deep inside a corrupted dungeon. Alone. Washed. Marked. And far from finished. The path behind the mirror chamber twisted into a narrow tunnel barely tall enough for Lin Hai to walk upright. The air was colder here and the chi drain intensified. Spiritual drain. Increased, 0.6% per minute. Warning, extended exposure may weaken combat performance. Every few minutes, the walls pulsed with a low hum, as if something ancient breathed behind the stone. Kuro stirred inside the satchel, ears alert. "You feel it too, huh?" Lin Hai murmured. They weren't alone. The tunnel opened suddenly into a wide, circular chamber, carved, not natural. The walls bore etched spirals and faintly glowing runes. At the center sat a black stone altar, half buried in rubble. Crimson roots coiled tightly around its base like tendrils holding it down. Hovering just above it was a rune stone, roughly palm-sized, shaped like an eye split down the middle. It rotated slowly in the air, dripping faint trails of shadow as it turned. Dungeon anomaly detected. Echo seal. Classification: inherited rune, bound. Origin: unknown cultic artifact. Effect: grants unique trait based on bearer's psyche. Status: sealed, guarded. Risk: high. Reward: high. Action options: interact, claim. Destroy, purge corruption. Retreat. System note: this seal does not originate from your system. Synchronization is unstable. Lin Hai stepped closer, his eyes drawn to the rune. It pulsed faintly as he approached, casting ghostly light across the altar. A whisper brushed the edge of his mind. "You've seen what they hid. Take this, and see more." He reached out. A shadow moved. The guardian arrived without sound. One moment the chamber was empty. The next it stood between Lin Hai and the altar. The Echo Beast. It was tall, humanoid in form, but its body was made of rippling, half-formed memories. One moment, it wore the face of Instructor Jian. The next Manhwa. Then Lin Hai himself. Eyes flickered across its arms, its back, its chest, hundreds of them blinking in chaotic rhythm. Its mouth was sewn shut. Echo Beast, rank C, unstable. Manifestation: memory-bound shadow. Traits: silent pursuit, illusion shift, memory feed. Goal: prevent seal from being touched. Weakness: core anchor hidden inside left arm. Lin Hai stepped into his stance. The Echo Beast didn't roar or speak. It moved, fast like a blur of warped images. Lin Hai barely ducked under its first swipe. It passed him like smoke, then reformed, striking from the other side. He countered with flowing iron fist, but it was like hitting water. The beast shimmered, then split into 3 copies, each wearing a different face: his, Minxue's, and Rue Lan's. Echo Beast skill: familiar guilt, activated. Combat difficulty increased by 2 tiers. Emotional synchronization required to resist illusion damage. Lin Hai gritted his teeth. The Rue Lan copy circled behind him. The Minxue copy lunged first. He blocked it, but seeing her face twisted and blank-eyed hurt more than expected. "You're not them," he growled. He focused. Let the system guide his breathing. Let his instincts quiet the panic. Then he did what the Echo wouldn't expect. He closed his eyes. Let go of fear. Of guilt. Of anger. Let his body move without vision. He heard Kuro hiss. Felt the movement shift. Step. Strike. Pivot. Sweep. He connected with one of the illusions. The image flickered and shattered. Only one remained. Now it showed only his face, no more tricks. The final beast lunged. This time Lin Hai caught its arm, twisted, and drove his elbow straight into its shoulder joint. With his other hand he struck the left arm, where the system had revealed its anchor. His chi flared. Crack. The beast shrieked, mouth still sewn shut, as its arm shattered like porcelain. Then it dissolved. Gone. Silence returned. The altar pulsed. Seal guard defeated. Echo seal, available for interaction. Options: claim, destroy, leave. The fragment in his satchel began to thrum wildly. Kuro hissed, his fur standing on end. Warning: Echo seal and fragment synchronization at 72%. If you claim this seal, it will change you. If you destroy it, a path will close forever. Lin Hai stepped forward. He looked down at his hands. He wasn't weak anymore. Not defenseless. But he wasn't unbreakable either. He had 1 upgrade point. He could strengthen his stats. Or push deeper into flowing iron fist. But this was something else. Something born of shadows and choice. He reached forward. Touched the seal. Echo seal claimed, synchronization in progress. Trait gained, spectral sense. Description: you now perceive echoes of strong emotions and lingering intentions left behind by others. Fear leaves heat. Guilt leaves shadows. Rage leaves trails. See evolvable. Side effect: fragment sync increased, 81%. Mark reaction: stabilized temporarily. Lin Hai reeled back, eyes wide. The chamber spun, then sharpened. He felt the room differently now. The altar no longer pulsed randomly. It wept fear. The ground held a memory of violence. The stone beneath his feet remembered pain. Everything had a trace. Kuro stared at him with eyes narrowed. He didn't meow. He watched. Lin Hai took a long, slow breath. He had claimed something he didn't understand. And he wasn't sure yet whether that meant victory, or a deeper kind of curse. The echo of the seal still pulsed beneath Lin Hai's skin as he walked deeper into the dungeon. But now, he saw the world differently. The cavern walls were no longer just damp stone. They shimmered faintly with colors that didn't belong, emotion traces, like painted fog hanging in the air. Where someone had panicked, a glow of red-orange flickering like a fire about to die. Where someone had fallen, a heavy black smear pooled low to the ground, unmoving. Where someone had fought and survived, bright white sparks flickering and fractured, barely holding together. Spectral sense, active. Interpretation level, 1. Aura traces detected, 12, recent, within 7 days. Closest memory imprint, 15 meters, emotional tag. Terror, despair, silence. Kuro hissed softly, low in his throat. I see it, Lin Hai murmured. Up ahead, the tunnel curved left, but the emotional traces veered right, through a thin crack in the wall that wasn't marked on his map crystal. He paused. Optional path detected, hidden memory corridor. Difficulty, unknown. Objective, discover the source of lingering echoes. Note, caution. Fragment synchronization will intensify in this region. Lin Hai stood there for a long moment, torn. He'd already claimed one cursed prize. Already let the seal touch his core. But if these echoes were what he feared, then students hadn't just failed their trials. Some hadn't left at all. He stepped into the crack. The passage was narrow and sharp-edged. Black moss clung to the ceiling like rot. The chi here was thinner, emptier, like it had already been drained. After 20 paces he found the first mark. A sword, half buried in the dirt, its blade snapped clean. He knelt, brushing it off. The hilt bore the Eastwind crest. Someone from the academy, he murmured. Kuro growled. Farther in, the air changed. The walls became smoother. More deliberate. Carved into rough geometric patterns, spirals, eye symbols, and rows of teeth-like ridges. The kind of symbols that didn't just look wrong but felt wrong. They throbbed with residual emotion. Spectral surge detected, source within 10 meters. Emotional trace, shamed hunger, obedience. Lin Hai's stomach turned. He stepped into a chamber lined with cracked lanterns and bloodstains burned into the floor. And at the far wall, chained by shadow-twisted roots, was a person. No, not anymore. The figure wore Eastwind Academy robes, but they were blackened and fused to their skin. The body was thin, warped, its limbs elongated unnaturally. Eyes glowing faint green. Veins bulging with dark chi. Its head twitched once, then lifted. The voice was still human, barely. You came late. Corrupted disciple, failed trial convert. Filiation, whispering eyes, low initiate, bound. Combat class, saber, shadow vein variant. Threat level, moderate to high, mental interference present. The creature raised a broken saber, its edges dripping with venom like chi. I failed, but they saved me, it rasped. You'll fail too. They're already watching you. Lin Hai took a slow breath. So you really were students? Now I'm more. It lunged. The first strike came fast, far faster than the thing's twisted limbs should have allowed. Lin Hai barely dodged, rolling low as the corrupted saber cleaved into the wall. He came up under its guard, fists flashing. 1, 2, 3. He struck the chest, then the side, felt bone crack, but it didn't slow. The disciple thing hissed, its mouth splitting wider than it should have, eyes glowing hotter. Shadow vein, chi corruption skill activated. Pain curse, each strike you land damages you in return. Lin Hai reeled back. His ribs ached, not from the blow but from the backlash. His last strike had rebounded chi into his body. Cheap trick, he muttered. He wouldn't win by brute force. Then he remembered. Battle reflection, passive. After 30 seconds, sync with enemy rhythm. Progress, 82%. Lin Hai calmed his breathing, shifting into a counter stance. Let it attack. Let it reveal itself. The next strike came in a blur of afterimages. He stepped between them, catching the rhythm, and hit back with exact timing. Chi flowed perfectly. Crack. The disciple staggered. Lin Hai twisted low, grabbing the corrupted saber's hilt, and snapped it in two. The creature shrieked. Synchronization complete, rhythm locked. Bonus, flowing iron fist plus 10% effectiveness versus saber-type combatants. He launched forward. Not with anger, but precision. He struck the heart, once. The creature dropped. And this time it didn't rise. The chamber fell silent. The roots around the body withered. The corrupted robes burned away to ash. All that remained was a jade pendant, Eastwind's insignia engraved on the surface, now cracked. Lin Hai picked it up gently. He didn't know the student's name, but they had once walked the same path. Now only this remained. Spectral sense, memory imprint recovered. I wasn't strong enough, but if someone finds this, tell them we didn't leave. Bonus, upgrade point earned. Fragment sync, plus 4%. Kuro leapt to his shoulder, quiet and tense. Lin Hai didn't speak as he left the chamber. He walked in silence, past the spirals and teeth, back into the winding tunnel. He didn't look back. The tunnel ended at a fork. To the left, a wide, structured path lit by flickering violet lanterns. Its walls were carved with hexagonal patterns, a core chamber gate, unmistakably artificial. System runes hovered faintly around it, indicating the presence of a dungeon boss. To the right, a jagged break in the wall more like a wound than a passage. Black roots crawled along its edges like fingers trying to keep something inside. The stone was scarred, the ground burned. And yet, that was where the fragment pulsed most violently. System notification. Standard dungeon core, path left. Status: boss room locked, requires core crystal activation. Reward: dungeon clearance token plus exit. Unstable echo path, path right. Status: ritual residue detected. Risk: high. Objective: unknown. Synchronization spike detected. Warning: whispering eyes energy signature active. Kuro leapt from Lin Hai's shoulder and landed between the two paths. He hissed, at the right path. Lin Hai took a breath. This isn't just a dungeon anymore, he muttered. He didn't know why this place had a secondary ritual chamber. Dungeons weren't supposed to have altars. They weren't supposed to speak. But ever since the fragment had awakened, the lines between beast and cult, system and corruption, had started to bend. Maybe this was a trap. Maybe this was exactly where he was supposed to go. He turned right. The tunnel narrowed, forcing Lin Hai to lower his head and brush aside roots thick with dark sap. With every step, the system flickered, its data slowing, lagging as if the environment resisted classification. Environmental control interference detected. Spiritual signature overlap. Dungeon core, 46%. Unknown entity, 54%. Even the dungeon was losing control of itself. The passage opened into a chamber unlike anything he'd seen. There were no monsters. No corpses. Just silence and something worse. At the center stood a half-collapsed stone altar, glowing faintly with red runes shaped like eyes. Around it sat 4 empty robes, Eastwind Academy issue but twisted, altered. Symbols of the Academy overwritten with spirals, slashes and teeth. The altar was cracked. A blade lay embedded in its center, black steel, curved, humming faintly with pulsing chi. Not corrupted. Not clean. Balanced on the edge of both. Artifact detected, obsidian fong. Weapon class, saber adaptive. Passive effect, echo pulse, channels residual memory in slashes. Warning, item has accepted cultic chi. System interference possible. Lin Hai approached slowly. Fragment reacting, sync at 89%. They left it here, for you? His hand hovered over the hilt. Then someone spoke. You really shouldn't be here. He spun. A figure stepped out of the shadows on the far side of the altar. She was young, his age maybe younger. Pale skin. Eyes dull, unfocused. Her robe was torn at the sleeves, and her voice sounded hollow, as if something else was speaking through her. Entity detected, initiate of whispering eyes. Name, Mayan. Status, incomplete conversion. Mental state, fragmented. Hostile, unknown. I told them no, she said softly. But they marked me anyway. They said, if I left I would dissolve. Lin Hai stepped forward carefully. You're still fighting it. She looked up. Her eyes shimmered faintly. Maybe. Or maybe this is all that's left of me. She reached into her sleeve and pulled out a small black crystal, like a fragment of his own. This is a voice. It whispers, that you're one of us now. I'm not. But you touched the seal. I fought it. But you didn't reject it, she said. You accepted the vision. The fragment. The sense. Lin Hai hesitated. Because she wasn't wrong. And that terrified him more than any monster. The altar behind her flared. The robes on the ground stood up. No bodies. Just robes filled with something unseen. 4 of them, floating, arms raised, mouths moving beneath invisible faces. Ritual echo initiated, auto defense mechanism. Combat encounter, 4x echo robes. Traits, illusion casting, binding chant, memory drain. Objective, survive or destroy anchor, obsidian fong. Mayan didn't move. Run if you want, she said. Or take the blade. What happens if I do? You'll hear them louder. Lin Hai looked at the robes, already chanting, shadows swirling around their hems. Kuro leapt onto the altar and crouched beside the saber. A message blinked. Choice point reached. Interact with obsidian fong? Yes. Engage weapon bound by echo chi. Temporary increase in combat power. Fragment sync will increase. No. Engage echo robes with base technique. Higher difficulty. Less exposure risk. The blade hummed again, not calling but waiting. Lin Hai didn't breathe. He reached out. His hand closed around the hilt. Obsidian fong equipped. Chi compatibility, 53%. Combat skill unlocked. Echo cut, LV. 1. A sweeping arc infused with stored emotional chi. Weakens illusion and chant-based enemies. Side effect. Whisper level increased. System barrier holding. Lin Hai stepped forward. And the robes shrieked. The moment Lin Hai gripped obsidian fong, the temperature in the ritual chamber dropped like stone in a well. The saber's hilt pulsed against his palm, not warm, not cold. Just present. A heartbeat of something long buried. The 4 echo robes surged toward him, gliding soundlessly, their sleeves flaring like wings of shadow. Chanting rang out, voices overlapping in a language Lin Hai didn't recognize but felt. Each word pulled at his thoughts, fraying the edge of his mind like fingers tugging loose thread. Combat initiated, Echo Robes X4. Chant Aura. Mind deterioration, slow. Obsidian Fong combat effect activated. Echo Cut LV, 1. Anti-illusion plus weakening strike. Lin Hai didn't hesitate. He stepped into a wide arc, slashing horizontally with the saber. Dark chi surged from the blade's edge, a curved wave of pressure that hit the nearest robe dead on. The illusion tore like paper. The robe dropped to the ground lifeless once more. 1 down. The other 3 shifted. Suddenly he was surrounded, the room spinning with mirrored images of the robes, 20-30 of them chanting at once. Lin Hai gritted his teeth. Spectral sense, active. Locating source, 82%, 93%. There. One to the right pulsed with fear, the real one. He pivoted and lunged, flowing iron fist in his offhand striking just ahead of the saber's follow-through. Crack. Slash. The robe's scream was silent, but the illusion collapsed instantly. Battle reflection triggered, echo chant pattern recognized. Plus 10% evasion versus chant-based enemies for 10 minutes. The remaining 2 robes pulled away, drifting higher toward the chamber ceiling. Their sleeves unraveled into long black tendrils, whipping down toward Lin Hai's head and neck. Kuro leapt from the altar, intercepting one tendril with a burst of shadowy energy. The second wrapped around Lin Hai's arm. It burned. Not just skin thoughts. Images flooded his mind. Roilan screaming. Minshue limp and cold. His parents' eyes empty, turned to stone. No. He roared, breaking the grip with a blast of raw chi from his core. The saber pulsed, answering. Upgrade point available, spend now. Upgrade Echo Cut. Improve stat, mind, body, energy. Evolve passive skill. He made the decision on instinct. Upgrade Echo Cut. Echo Cut LV, 2. Effect enhanced. Increased range. Disrupts chant energy and silences echo constructs for 5 seconds. Side effect. Increased sync with Obsidian Fong. Fragment sync, 93%. He leapt toward the final 2 robes. The blade moved like liquid thought. 1 slash. 2. 3. Shadow was torn away. Silence crashed over the chamber. All 4 robes fell. For a moment, Lin Hai stood motionless, breath ragged, saber humming faintly. Then Mei En stepped forward from the shadows. You could have destroyed the blade, she said. I considered it. And chose power instead. Lin Hai didn't answer. She studied him for a moment. Then reached into her robe and pulled out a carved token, round, bone-white, etched with a spiral and a slit pupil in the center. Occult insignia. I was supposed to offer this to you, she said. If you passed the test. If you used the blade. If you saw the echoes. Why? Because you're already marked, she whispered. They knew you'd choose to listen. That you'd understand the power waiting beneath the lie of balance. I'm not one of you, he said. Not yet. But the eye doesn't need loyalty. Only potential. She dropped the token. Shattered. Then she turned and walked into the shadows, vanishing between the roots. Gone. A low rumble filled the chamber. The altar cracked in half. The walls pulsed. Final core chamber unlocked, boss gate active. Return to central path. Dungeon exit available upon core stabilization. Lin Hai took one last look at the chamber. Then turned back through the tunnel. The boss room was quiet. At its center stood a crimson vein golem, half-formed and bound to the core. It rose from the floor with a groan, barely active. He didn't even need to use the saber. His flowing iron fist, enhanced by battle rhythm and reflex, took it down in under a minute. Dungeon core stabilized. Exit portal formed. Reward tier, B. Bonus acquired. Obsidian Fong bound, growth cap unlocked. Echo Cut, LV, 2. Spectral sense. Quest chain unlocked. Eyes beneath the world. As Lin Hai stepped through the gate, his body tingled. System rebalancing his chi, healing minor injuries, restoring stability. But one thing didn't fade. The sigil on his forearm. It now glowed faintly red, pulsing once every few seconds. Mark status. Stage 2 initiated. System note. Interference growing. Next sync spike expected in 5 days. But it wasn't just a warning this time. It came with a message. Not in his system. Not in his mind. But deep in his soul. The eye is open. And Lin Hai knew. He'd been noticed. The dungeon gate rippled once, then tore open like a wound in the air. Lin Hai stepped out into the gray afternoon light, his boots scraping across the stone as the rift sealed behind him with a snap and a gust of cold air. Silence greeted him. No cheers. No instructors. Just a single recorder crystal on a floating platform nearby, blinking faintly as it recorded his emergence. A solo return. The first in nearly 3 months from Black Vein Cavern. Students who had gathered nearby, likely waiting for their own assignments or to spectate dungeon clearances, stared as he walked past. He was bloodstained but upright, wounded but standing. And his eyes, they were different now. One whisper reached his ears. Wasn't that gate supposed to be cursed? Another, no one's made it out alive since the last 5-man team. What did he do in there? Kuro perched on his shoulder, tail lashing. From the academy tower, Lin Hai felt it before he saw it, watching eyes. Not just gossiping students. Ire. Hidden. On a distant rooftop, a figure stood still, completely cloaked in black. A mask of polished gray reflected the sky. Just like in the first dungeon. The same figure. No one else noticed it. And the moment Lin Hai's eyes locked with the mask, it vanished. Not stepped back. Not turned. Gone. He was halfway to the main campus when a voice barked from behind. Lin Hai. Halt. Instructor Jian. He stood in the middle of the walkway, arms folded, expression unreadable. You're not going to debrief? Jian asked. I thought I'd clean up first. You can bleed later, Jian said, stepping closer. Right now I want answers. Lin Hai sighed inwardly. Follow me. The evaluation chamber was buried beneath the central tower. It smelled of chalk and incense, its walls lined with wards and dampening circles. Students rarely came here unless they were being considered for elite advancement or interrogation. Stand in the center, Jian ordered, walking to the outer ring. Lin Hai obeyed. A circular platform beneath him lit up. Symbols flickered beneath his boots, tracking chi flow, pressure, circulation. System disruption detected. Status panel concealed. Suppression field, Tier 3, adjusting sync to passive mode. Lin Hai kept his breathing steady. The system dimmed, fading to a whisper at the edge of his awareness. A green orb hovered beside the platform. Jian narrowed his eyes, watching the data stream. You advanced 1 full stage, he muttered. Somewhat, Lin Hai replied carefully. And your core pressure reads as split, Jian said. Not unbalanced, split. Like you formed an auxiliary channel without fusing it. I can't explain that. Jian stepped forward. Did you consume anything irregular? Touch an unstable core? Pick up an unknown technique? I picked up a saber. From where? A hidden chamber. Deep in the dungeon. Jian's eyes flickered. And you used it? Lin Hai nodded. The silence between them grew. Show me your forearm, Jian said at last. Lin Hai froze. Why? Jian's gaze didn't waver. Because I've seen that glow under your sleeve. And because 20 years ago I watched a boy stand where you're standing now, with the same glow. Heart thudding, Lin Hai slowly unwrapped the cloth around his forearm. The sigil gleamed beneath the warding lights, no longer faint. The eye-shaped mark had deepened, its outline sharp and red, pulsing every few seconds like a heartbeat. Jian stared for a long time. Then stepped back, arms crossed. I had a student named Lian Zhou, he said. Quiet. Average. Nothing special. He entered a dungeon with a team. Came back alone. He had that same mark on his arm. What happened to him? He disappeared 3 weeks later. No warning. No trace. Jian turned away, walking to the wall and placing a hand on a spirit panel. A flame ignited inside, casting the room in orange light. No one believed me when I said he was taken, Jian continued. That something got into his mind and started growing. He started talking in his sleep. Writing in languages no one could read. Then one night he walked out of his dorm. Left his robe on the bench. Never came back. He looked at Lin Hai. I don't know what's touched you, but it's here. Now. Inside Eastwind. I'm not him, Lin Hai said quietly. I didn't say you were. But I am telling you this. Jian stepped close. If I see you break, if I see even a flicker of something that doesn't belong, I will put you down myself. The silence was absolute. Lin Hai nodded slowly. Understood. Jian stepped back, jaw clenched. You're dismissed. But this isn't over. As Lin Hai left the chamber, the platform faded behind him. He tightened the wrap around his forearm, heart heavy. The sigil still pulsed. The blade at his side felt heavier with each step. And he knew beyond any doubt. He wasn't just marked by the eye. He was being measured. Tested. Watched. Instructor Jian didn't summon Lin Hai. He didn't need to. The very next day, Jian was waiting for him after morning drills, leaning against a courtyard pillar, arms folded, watching Lin Hai the way a swordsmith might watch a blade fresh from the fire. Waiting to see if it would hold or shatter. Walk with me, Jian said simply. No threat. No bark. But Lin Hai obeyed without hesitation. They moved through the quieter parts of Eastwind Academy, where stone lanterns flickered in alcoves and the air smelled faintly of incense and wet pine. Few students came here. Fewer still were invited. I know you're not telling me everything, Jian said, not looking at him. I've trained long enough to know when a student is lying. I didn't lie. You withheld. Yes. Jian stopped beside a small koi pond and gazed down into the water. The orange and white fish below glided in silence, unbothered by marks or monsters or secrets. He reached into his robe and pulled out an old talisman, faded parchment torn at the edges. The ink had bled in places, but Lin Hai could still make out the symbol drawn at its center. An eye. Not glowing. Not active. But familiar. Lian Zhou wore this, Jian said. He left it behind the night he vanished. I didn't know what it meant then. And now? I think it means we're not fighting what we think we're fighting. Jian looked at Lin Hai. This cult, these dungeons, this isn't about beast cores or corrupted chi anymore. Lin Hai stayed silent. I've started seeing signs across the city, Jian continued. Merchants who never blink. Children reciting names no one taught them. A guard who walked into a wall for 30 minutes without noticing. You think they've already infiltrated the city? I know they have. And if I know, Jian's voice dropped. Then so does the military. That caught Lin Hai's attention. Wait, the military knows. They know enough, Jian said grimly. Enough to fear what happens when the eye opens fully. Enough to track those who bear the mark. And if they think you're losing control. He let the sentence hang. They'll kill me, Lin Hai finished. No, Jian turned. They'll erase you. The koi swam in slow circles below them. Jian put the talisman away. Tell me this, Lin Hai, do you still want to be a cultivator? Or do you just want to survive what's happening to you? The question hit harder than expected. Lin Hai didn't answer right away. He thought of his parents breaking themselves to buy him pills. Of Min Shui laughing through every training day. Of Ruelan, sneaking him into restricted files with nothing but stubborn curiosity. He thought of the dungeon. Of the echo seal. Of himself in the mirror. I want to fight, he said finally. Not because I want to kill. But because I don't want to be claimed. Not by the mark. Not by fear. Not by them. Jian nodded once. It was not praise. Not encouragement. It was a man recognizing a decision. And the cost that came with it. As they turned back toward the courtyard, Jian stopped him one last time. If you feel it changing you, he said, if you wake up one day and the things in your dreams feel more real than the ones you love, tell me. Before it's too late. I will, Lin Hai said. But deep down he wasn't sure if he meant it. Because if he did change, would he even still be himself enough to know? Late at night, Eastwind Academy's outer halls fell into stillness. The lanterns lining the walkways dimmed to soft embers. Wind stirred the flags above the rooftops. And in the shadows between the dorm towers and the pill division, two cloaked figures moved silently across the stone. Ruelan unlocked the service gate to the Lan family archive wing, her breath visible in the cold air. We have 10 minutes before the patrol orb sweeps back. Lin Hai followed her inside. Remind me again, he whispered, how exactly you're allowed in here? She gave him a crooked smile. Technically I'm not. But my uncle still thinks I'm researching rare spiritual poisons. So we're safe unless the barrier screams. The archive was built like a vault, thick stone walls, heavy shelves lined with scrolls, talismans, and bound ledgers that hummed with suppressed spiritual energy. The entire chamber smelled of old ink and dried sage. Start there, Ruelan said, pointing to a black lacquered cabinet. Marked cases. Dungeon survivors. People with recorded post-trial anomalies. Lin Hai opened the drawer. Hundreds of thin metal cards slid into view, each engraved with a name, trial designation, and status. He flipped through them quickly. Most of these are expired, he muttered. Failed students. Missing or dead. That's the point, Ruelan said softly. No one survives this kind of mark for long. He paused as one name caught his eye. Inmate, trial, hollow spiral ruins, status, vanished. Mark classification, untraceable sigil, type 3. Recorded traits, emotional-based chi mutation, reflective illusions. Observation terminated, day 12 postmark. It was her. The girl from the ritual chamber. She had once been a student here. Ruelan cursed under her breath. They scrubbed her from the registry. She's not on the current rolls. She was, Lin Hai said. And she still wore part of the academy uniform in the dungeon. That means someone here sent her into that trial. Knowing. She opened a second drawer. The ones they called veil-touched, those are rarer. Family-linked cases. Bloodline awakenings after contact with echo-tier anomalies. Lin Hai's heart beat faster. Family? They recorded any student with sudden affinity shifts, emotion-based powers, or fragment resonance. Most died. A few disappeared. Ruelan's hand froze as she pulled one card free. She held it out slowly. Lin Hai took it. Lin Qin, trial, glass maw core, status, civilian reclassification. Affinity awakening, unknown, core level chi pulse recorded. Mark, present, sigil, I variant. Notes, rejected academy track. Relocated to civilian district. Flagged, veil touched, class 2. Lin Hai stared at the card. Then again. And again. His father. The name was right. The age. Even the grainy photo, 15 years old, same jawline, same eyes, just more tired. Your father was a student here, Ruelan whispered. And he was marked. Lin Hai felt cold all the way down to his spine. He never said anything. He just told me he tried the trials once and failed. He didn't fail, she said. They reclassified him. Sent him out before something else could happen. What is veil touched supposed to mean? Ruelan hesitated, then turned and pulled a third card from a separate section. Internal Terminology Index, restricted use only. Veil touch. An individual exposed to echo-tier spiritual contamination. Typically exhibits unstable emotional traits, spiritual bleed-through and memory trace anomalies. Potentially valuable for infiltration countermeasures or eye-based ritualism. Risk, progressive loss of identity. Lin Hai's hands shook. He put the cards down. Why wouldn't he tell me? He asked. Why hide it? Why pretend we were just normal? Because if the military knew what he was, Ruelan said gently, they'd monitor your whole family. Maybe worse. The archive room felt colder than before. Kuro, sitting silently near the door, let out a low growl. Ruelan looked toward the shelves. There's more here. Files from old investigations, bloodline records, the gate echo list. No, Lin Hai said. We've seen enough for tonight. She turned to him. Are you okay? No. But he smiled faintly. That just means I'm still me. Back in his dorm room, Lin Hai lit a single candle and stared at the wall. His father had survived this once. Survived the mark, the eye, the whispers, and walked away. But Lin Hai wasn't sure he could. Because every time he closed his eyes now, he heard things moving in the quiet. And they knew his name. The first dream came that night. But it didn't feel like a dream. It began with silence. Then breath. Lin Hai stood in an ancient hall carved of obsidian and bone. Candles lined the walls, hundreds each with a flame that didn't flicker, didn't move, didn't live. Their light was colorless. He walked, barefoot, his robe dragging behind him. Not his uniform. Not his own clothes. This one was darker. Heavier. Lined with red stitching. And at its chest, the symbol. The eye. You've walked far. The voice came from everywhere. And nowhere. Lin Hai didn't answer. Because he wasn't the one speaking. He was watching, from inside his own body. His hands moved without thought. They raised. At the center of the hall, atop a spiral of chained bones, a woman knelt, blindfolded, robes soaked in ash and oil. Let her see, said the voice. His hands moved. A blade appeared in them, black, curved, crackling faintly. Obsidian fong. He knelt and pressed the blade to her forehead. Light pulsed, red then white then gone. She collapsed forward. No blood. But something in her was hollowed out. Lin Hai awoke with a gasp, heart pounding, sweat soaking his sheets. He blinked rapidly, trying to force the image away. But it stayed. That wasn't a nightmare. It was a memory. And not his. System alert, foreign dream signature detected. Category, echo-level vision, forced induction. Containment status, unstable. Sigil corruption spike, plus 4%. Current threshold, 48%. Time until stage 3 manifestation, 5 days. He sat up, breath shallow. Kuro was nowhere to be seen. Not under the bed. Not on the windowsill. Not in the room. His usual presence, silent, shadowy, anchoring, was just gone. A part of Lin Hai didn't blame him. The next day he found small traces left behind. A few flakes of black ash on the edge of his pillow. A faint scent, damp stone and burnt incense. He touched the pillow and flinched. A pulse of energy rippled up his arm. For a second he heard chanting again. He dropped it immediately. Over the following days the dreams continued. He stopped writing them down. There was no point. Every time he was someone else. Wearing robes. Giving orders. Accepting kneeling cultists. Reciting verses in languages he shouldn't have understood. But now he did. Every time he woke, the eye on his arm burned a little brighter. One night he dreamed of the academy. But not as it was now. No students. No light. Just empty halls filled with chains. The instructors wore masks. Jian stood at the gate holding a blade. Blood ran down his face and he whispered, "You should have told me." When Lin Hai turned to flee he passed a mirror. And the reflection looked exactly like the masked cultist from the first dungeon. Same robe. Same stance. Same voice. The eye is open. And your voice has joined the chorus. He woke with blood on his lower lip. Bitten during the dream. He sat up, staring at the candlelight flickering on the walls. A timer in the system blinked steadily at the corner of his vision. Sigil stage 3 countdown, 4 days. Later that evening Ruelan passed him in the hallway. She paused. "You haven't been sleeping." He didn't deny it. "You're seeing things now, aren't you?" she asked quietly. "Dreaming things. Things that don't feel like they belong to you." He looked at her and for a moment she understood, truly understood, without him needing to say a word. Ruelan stepped closer. "Then hold on to one thing," she said. One memory that's only yours. A moment. A voice. A reason. She tapped his forehead lightly. If the eye ever tries to take you, fight it with that. Lin Hai nodded, though he didn't speak. Because the truth was, he didn't know what that one thing would be. Not yet. That night, Kuro returned. Silently. Slowly. He climbed onto Lin Hai's bed, curled at the corner, and stared without blinking. Lin Hai looked down at the faintly glowing sigil on his forearm. And for the first time he whispered, not a system command, not a technique. Just a question. Who am I becoming? No answer came. Only silence. And the echo of a dream. Lin Hai opened his locker after evening drills to find a note. Unsealed. Folded once. He scanned it quickly. No name. No crest. Only 7 handwritten words, drawn in black ink. We have watched. You have passed. There was no signature. No threat. But the pulse on his forearm surged the moment he touched the paper. Kuro let out a low growl from the bench behind him. The system flickered softly in his vision. Sigil reaction detected. Mental influence, passive. Suggested action, ignore, do not respond. But something told Lin Hai it wouldn't matter. They weren't asking. They were already waiting. He slipped away from the dorms after midnight. The message didn't give a time. Or a place. But he knew where to go. The Academy's south garden, a narrow courtyard filled with willow trees and half-buried prayer stones, was always empty at night. Too quiet. Too forgotten. It was a place meant for whispers. The moment Lin Hai stepped through the archway, the wind died. A figure stood beneath one of the trees, waiting in stillness. Tall. Robed in gray. Matte. Not the same as before. This one bore no insignia, no spiral. Just a flat face of bone-white stone, featureless except for a faint symbol carved at the center. An open eye. Lin Hai didn't flinch. The figure tilted its head. You're not afraid, it said. The voice was soft. Yeah. Come. I've seen worse. You've seen echoes. Shadows. Reflections. But not yet truth. Lin Hai crossed his arms. You're from the whispering eyes. The figure stepped forward. No. I am of the eye. We don't belong to it. We become it. What do you want? To give you what no one else has. Silence. Then. A choice. The figure reached into its sleeve and pulled out a coin, metallic, dark gray, etched on both sides. One side bore the eye. The other a mirror. The coin was warm. Lin Hai didn't move to take it. You're not trying to kill me, he said. We never kill the marked, the figure replied. Only offer. The eye does not enslave. It reveals. All things. All lies. Even the ones you keep from yourself. You expect me to join you? I expect nothing. You are not a soldier. You are not a puppet. You are what the mark made you chosen. The coin hovered in the air between them. Take it and see. Lin Hai hesitated. He knew it was dangerous. He knew it would pull something open. But something in him wanted to understand. To see the full picture. He reached out and touched the coin with his fingers. The world tilted. The sky blinked. And for a heartbeat, Lin Hai stood not in the garden, but on a stone platform surrounded by endless black. Behind him, robed figures knelt. In front of him, a mirror as tall as the sky. And in the mirror, he wore the mask. He saw himself looking back, expressionless, silent. And then he spoke. The eye does not choose the weak. You are not here by mistake. You are not marked to be owned. You are marked to become. The mirror shattered. Lin Hai staggered back, eyes wide. The figure was already gone. Only the coin remained on the ground. He picked it up slowly. The metal was cold now. No weight. No whisper. System alert. Foreign symbol registered. Coin of reflection. Status, inert for now. Corruption spike, +1%. Sigil threshold, 49%. Remaining days until stage 3. Back in his room, Lin Hai sat in silence. Kuro didn't curl near him. Didn't purr. Only stared. The coin rested on the desk beside the candle. And the mark on Lin Hai's arm pulsed softly, once, twice. As if acknowledging the moment. The system message came just after dawn. System alert, sigil stage 3 incoming. Synchronization level, 91%. Estimated time until critical threshold, 72 hours. Suppression barrier, failing. Risk, cognitive interference, personality drift, mental contamination. Suggested action, seek containment. Warning, no action will result in irreversible exposure. Lin Hai stood in the dorm courtyard, eyes on the sky. 3 days. That was all the time he had left. Not until death. Not even madness. Until change. 3 days, Ruelan said, pacing in tight circles around the edge of the old pill lab. She had dragged Lin Hai into the closed facility the moment he told her. I need to seal it, she muttered. I can seal it. There's a method, volatile, but it works. It isolates the mark, burns the nerve threads around the chi channels, and forces it into dormancy. What's the success rate? 37%. And the failure? She didn't answer. He smiled faintly. That bad? You'd lose your connection to your core, she said softly. Permanently. No more cultivation. No more chi flow. Not even body tempering. Lin Hai stared at the faded tiles of the lab floor. She stood across from him. Frustrated. Afraid. Determined. I know you think you can control this, Lin Hai. But there's a point where willpower isn't enough. This mark doesn't want balance. It doesn't stop. You've seen it. He didn't speak for a moment. Then, would you still talk to me if I wore the mask? I'd break your legs before you took it off, she said, eyes burning. But yes. Instructor Jian came that night. No invitation. No warning. Just appeared outside Lin Hai's dorm after evening lockout, arms folded, coat caught in the wind. You need to leave the campus, he said. Lin Hai stepped outside. What? There's a place. A holding sanctuary. A veil bunker under the city. A prison. A safeguard. I'm not going. Jian's eyes narrowed. You think you'll survive what's coming without killing someone? He asked. Without hurting someone you care about? No. Then why not let us help you? Because you're trying to keep me out of the fire, Lin Hai said. And I think the only way to survive this is to walk through it. Jian stared at him for a long time, then shook his head. You're braver than I was. Or more foolish. He handed Lin Hai a small talisman, etched with the academy seal and reinforced with a thread of Jian's personal chi. If the voices get too loud, he said, burn this. I'll find you. No matter where you are. And then he left. The next day the reflections changed. Mirrors, windows, even puddles. Wherever Lin Hai looked, he caught glimpses of eyes staring back, sometimes open, sometimes blinking, always vanishing when he turned. Kuro hissed at the glass in the mess hall. Knocked over a teacup staring at his own reflection. The whispers hadn't spoken yet. But they were there. Sigil synchronization, 94%. Side effect, emotional anchors weakening. System note, memories may begin to blur. Recommended, choose an anchor. An anchor? Lin Hai asked aloud, sitting in the corner of the library's second level. The system replied in a flicker of text only he could see. A memory. A person. A principle. Hold it tightly. Or risk forgetting who you were. He closed his eyes. He tried to picture his mother's smile. The sting of Min Shue's teasing. The day his father gave him his first training gloves, so worn they tore during drills. He held that image like a lifeline. Ruelan found him later that evening, hunched over a training dummy, fists bleeding from repetitive strikes. She didn't ask questions. She just rapped his knuckles in silence. You're not going to let anyone in once this starts, are you? She asked. I already did, he said. And look what it got me. She pressed the final rap into place. You're still Lin Hai. I don't know what that means anymore. She stood slowly. Then figure it out. Because in 3 days, no one else can do it for you. That night, Lin Hai stood in front of his mirror. He rolled up his sleeve. The sigil was no longer pulsing. It was glowing. A low, steady red like a buried ember waiting for air. Sigil status, stage 2.9. Threshold approaching. 48 hours remain. He looked into the mirror. No whispers. No visions. Just a boy with too many questions and a choice running out of time. And somewhere, deep in the stillness of his spirit, the eye was waiting. It happened during a routine sparring drill. Clear skies. Mid-morning sun. Instructor Jian watching from the far end of the courtyard. Lin Hai stood across from a third-year student named Wu Sen, a water affinity cultivator known for defensive technique and precise footwork. They had sparred before. Always friendly. No real rivalry. Just training. But Lin Hai felt off. His heartbeat was fast. Too fast. Sigil sync, 95%. Alert, emotional regulation compromised. Status, instability escalating. Suggested action, withdraw from training. He ignored it. Not here. Not now. He could control it. He had to. Begin, the assistant instructor called out. Wu Sen struck first, probing jabs with a short spear, water wrapped like silver thread. Light. Clean. Lin Hai countered smoothly, shifting with flowing iron footwork, deflecting strikes with minimal force. He didn't even need to think about it anymore. But then, a pulse. Hot. Sure. The mark on his arm surged. For a second, everything slowed. He could see Wu Sen's chi flow. The tension in his shoulder. The slight tilt of his heel before a pivot. He moved. Not just fast, perfectly. Flowing iron fist plus echo cut. The impact came like thunder. Crack. Wu Sen flew across the courtyard, slammed into the practice pillar and crumpled to the stone. Blood sprayed from his mouth. Silence fell. A dozen students rushed forward. 2 healers sprinted from the aid tower. Jian barked orders. The assistant instructor shouted for everyone to clear the field. Lin Hai stood frozen in place. He hadn't meant to hit that hard. Hadn't meant to aim for the rib. But the mark had driven him. He felt it. A second later it was gone. He'll recover, Jian said an hour later. Cracked ribs. Mild spiritual trauma. Could have been worse. Lin Hai sat alone in the instructor's side chamber, hands cuffed in light forged chi bands, temporary restraints meant to prevent aura outbursts. He wasn't ready, Lin Hai whispered. Neither were you, Jian said, his voice calm but sharp. That strike wasn't yours. It was the mark's. I didn't mean. Intent doesn't matter when someone's unconscious. Jian walked to the wall, pulled down a set of parchment sheets and held one up. This is a containment request. For me? Yes. The school wants to detain me? They want to sedate you. Isolate you. Study you. Lin Hai's breath caught. Will you let them? Jian didn't answer right away. But his silence was loud enough. That night, under a cloak in the moon, Lin Hai ran. He fled through the supply tunnels beneath the East Barracks, cutting through unused maintenance shafts, slipping past inactive barrier wards using a glyph Ruelan gave him 2 weeks ago, just in case. He didn't know where to go. He only knew he couldn't stay. And then, he felt it. A whisper. Not from the eye. From below. A tug, not of danger but resonance. Familiar. Guiding. He followed it. It led to a sealed gate hidden behind an abandoned well beneath the old prayer grounds. The lock was ancient, rusted, tied with a single red talisman. Words were scratched into the wood, barely visible. For the ones who see. The moment Lin Hai touched the door, the talisman dissolved. Inside was dust. Silence. Old stone and older shadows. The chamber was small, no more than a meditation hall carved into the rock. Circular. Hollow. The floor was painted with a faded sigil. Not the eye but a balanced symbol. A pair of curved shapes spiraling around a single line. At the center sat a raised stone slab. And on it a book. He picked it up. The cover was cracked leather, bound with silver thread. A name was carved into the front in old script. Zhen Liao, last of the marked teachers. Lin Hai opened it. The handwriting inside was clean. Sure. Precise. The first page. If you are reading this, then you are carrying what I once carried. Let me teach you what I learned too late. He read through the night. And with every line, the weight of the mark didn't grow heavier. It grew clearer. The candle burned low in the underlevel sanctuary. Lin Hai sat cross-legged on the cold stone floor, Zhen Liao's journal resting on his lap. The script inside flowed like ink poured from discipline. Balanced, clear, deliberate. Each line held weight. The mark is not a chain, it is a reflection. It doesn't give you new power. It reveals what is already inside you. The ones who fall are not corrupted by the eye, they are swallowed by their own hunger. Lin Hai closed the journal slowly. For the first time he truly understood. The eye didn't dominate. It invited. System note, emotional stability returning. Suggestion, begin focus ritual. Object, fragment. Object, coin of reflection. Warning, mind space traversal is unregulated. Outcome unpredictable. Progress toward stage 3 sync, 98%. Time remaining, 27 hours. Kuro stirred in the shadows, tail twitching. His eyes glowed faintly, uncertain but not afraid. Lin Hai took a breath. He placed obsidian fang across his knees, set the fragment in front of him, and balanced the coin on his palm. He whispered one word. Show me. The world shattered like glass. He stood in a vast chamber made of cracked mirrors. Each one reflected a version of him. Some older. Some younger. Some wearing different armor, carrying different blades. Some wore the mask. Some bled from the eyes. And in the center stood a single figure. Lin Hai stepped forward. The figure turned. It was him. Almost. The robes were darker, torn at the edges. The eyes glowed faint red rimmed with black veins. The mark on the forearm blazed like fire. He wore no mask. Because he didn't need to hide. Hello, the reflection said, smiling faintly. Finally ready to talk to yourself? Lin Hai didn't reply. You've seen what we could be, the other Lin Hai continued. Stronger. Faster. Unbound. The eye doesn't control us. It unlocks us. You're not me, Lin Hai said. I'm what you could be, the voice replied. What you've already started becoming. Mental duel initiated, mirror construct versus host. Domain, internal spirit hall. Stakes, alignment shift, core integrity, identity stabilization. System tip, remember your anchor. Lin Hai stepped into stance. Flowing iron fist. Echo cut ready in his right. The construct didn't mirror him, it wielded something else. Fragment blade, twin-edged, pulsing with unstable emotion. The duel began. The first clash was explosive. Lin Hai launched a jab to test range, blocked instantly. A high spin kick was countered mid-air with a sweep of the fragment blade that shattered the stone beneath them. The reflection didn't fight better. It fought harder. Faster. More reckless. More willing to bleed for a strike. You hesitate, the other Lin Hai shouted. That's why you'll break. Lin Hai gritted his teeth. He shifted back using spectral sense, reading the emotional heat of his opponent's rage and arrogance. He ducked low, dropped into a reverse sweep and caught the reflection off balance. What? He struck clean, sending the construct staggering. Battle reflection active, pattern assimilation 70%. But it recovered quickly. You think control makes you strong? It hissed. It weakens you. You're afraid of what you could be if you stopped caring. I'm not afraid of power, Lin Hai said. I'm afraid of becoming you. Another charge. They clashed again, chi ringing through the air like bells cracking. Strike, strike, counter, block. Lin Hai began to feel the rhythm, every move built from emotion. Every strike an expression of something held back. The reflection pressed in, now laughing. You don't have a real reason to fight. No purpose. No vow. Lin Hai's foot slid. His breath caught. The memory twisted. He saw his mother coughing in the kitchen. His father's hands raw from lifting crates. Pills on the table. Empty wrappers. Their tired smiles. And he remembered. I fight so they don't have to, Lin Hai said. I fight so I can walk home and still be me. I fight because this power doesn't define me, I define it. The air pulsed. Anchor established, core memory stabilized. Battle flow surging. He charged. One fist caught the reflection in the ribs. A second slammed into its chest. Then echo cut, straight across the mirror's core. Crack. The construct shattered into red light. Gone. Lin Hai dropped to one knee, breath ragged. The mirror chamber faded. The light returned. Internal trial complete. Status, core alignment stable. Trait acquired, echo resilience. When faced with illusion or identity threat, Lin Hai's self will now resist intrusion with increased stability. Synchronization with I, paused. Fragment reaction, calm. Remaining time to threshold, 17 hours. He opened his eyes. The chamber was still. Kuro curled up beside him again. And for the first time in days, the mark no longer ached. It began at midnight. No alarm. No pain. Just a soundless pulse that echoed from deep within Lin Hai's bones. He stood in the underlevel sanctuary, alone, awake, the coin resting in one hand and the fragment vibrating faintly in the other. Then the mark lit up. A flash of red light burned across his forearm and everything vanished. He awoke in darkness. Weightless. Floating in an endless expanse of black and gray clouds, no sky, no floor. No system interface. Only a voice. His voice. Lin Hai. You've reached the gate. Welcome to the threshold. Warning, you are now within a sealed psychic domain. Designation, threshold trial. Origin, sigil, stage 3. Status, trial of alignment. Outcome determines. Core identity stability. Sigil permanence. Ability to evolve without corruption. Trial 1, false betrayal. The world twisted. Suddenly he was standing in the Eastwind Academy courtyard, full of students. Ruelan stood beside him. Kuro watched from the wall. Then, screaming. Ruelan turned, eyes wide in horror. Instructor Jian's dead, someone shouted. Lin Hai killed him. He looked down. Blood on his hands. Obsidian fang in his grip. He stepped back, but Ruelan backed away faster. I trusted you, she whispered. We all did. No, this isn't real. The world rippled. A mirror cracked in the air above him. Trial 1 completed, result, success. Reflection broken. Mental interference resisted. I know my hands, Lin Hai said to the nothing around him. I know my will. Trial 2, emotional flood. The ground fell away. He plunged into water. No breath. No surface. Inside the depths, images rushed toward him, too fast, too sharp. His father begging someone in a military robe to leave his family alone. His mother weeping quietly into a sink filled with pill bottles. A vision of Kuro limp and bleeding in the ruins of Eastwind. Ruelan burning. Jin screaming his name with his throat cut. The pressure mounted. His chest burned. A voice whispered, let go. Drown. It's easier. No, he growled. I remember what's real. He clutched a single thread of memory. A boy. Small. Scared. Trying to punch a tree until his knuckles bled. His father knelt beside him and said, you don't get strong alone. But you don't get your kind of strong by waiting for permission either. He broke the surface. And gasped. Trial 2 completed, result, pass. Anchor memory reaffirmed. Emotional resilience increased. Trial 3 the choice. He stood at a table. Across from him sat the masked cultist, the one from the garden. Only now they removed the mask. It was Lin Hai. But older. Stronger. Come. With red eyes that did not blink. You've seen the truth, said the older version. You've survived it. There's no shame in accepting it. On the table rested a new coin. This one bore 2 eyes. One open. One closed. Take it, the other Lin Hai said. Become what you're meant to be. The eye does not devour. It liberates. And what do I become? Free. Beyond fear. Beyond guilt. Beyond failure. Lin Hai reached toward the coin. Stopped. I don't want to be beyond those things, he said. I want to feel them. Carry them. Control them. That's weakness. No. That's who I am. The coin cracked. Light surged. And the version of him across the table shattered like porcelain. The world spun. The eye closed. Threshold trial completed. Alignment chosen. Identity self-directed. Result, sigil stabilized. Permanent trait gained. Threshold core, tier 1. Your mind and spirit now house a spiritual anchor. Outside forces must now break this core to alter your alignment. Bonus ability unlocked. Mindfire Pulse 1x/day. Description. Release a blast of psychic chi that disables illusions, possession, or spirit channel effects in a 10-meter radius. Lin Hai awoke on the floor of the sanctuary. His breathing was slow. Controlled. Kuro sat beside him again. The fragment pulsed, not violently but in rhythm with his heartbeat. And the sigil on his arm wasn't just glowing now. It had changed. A red eye now sat inside a silver circle. Stable. Etched into his skin like a brand, but no longer pulsing with hunger. Sigil status, stable, self-aligned. Corruption, paused. Next threshold event, unknown. He stood up slowly, body aching, but intact. He had faced the eye. He hadn't submitted. And somehow he had shaped it. The dawn sky hung heavy with mist. Eastwind Academy lay quiet, too early for training, too late for curfew. A pale breeze stirred the flags above the towers, and the first light of morning filtered through the trees like memory through fog. Beneath it all, a hatch creaked open from the garden ruins behind the prayer tower. Lin Hai climbed out. Dust-streaked. Eyes red-rimmed. Breathing steady. He carried nothing but the fragment, the obsidian fang on his back, and a new scar across the palm of his right hand, cut during the third trial. The sigil on his forearm no longer glowed wildly. It sat beneath his skin like an answered question. Stable. Claimed. Not erased but his. Instructor Jian waited at the edge of the garden. Not surprised. Just still. 3 days, he said quietly. You vanished for 3 days. Lin Hai stopped a few paces away. I made it count. You crossed the line. I had to. Jian's eyes dropped to the sigil. He didn't speak for a long time. Finally, do you know what it means? That mark. I know what it doesn't mean, Lin Hai said. It doesn't mean I'm yours. Or theirs. Jian studied him jaw tight. Then slowly nodded. You're walking a thin edge, Lin Hai. You fall either way and the academy will turn on you. Then I won't fall. See that you don't. Jian turned and walked away. But he left something behind on the stone path. A small pouch. Lin Hai opened it. Inside were 2 pills, refined grade chi forged. Expensive. And a short note, scrawled in rough brush strokes. For when you choose to get stronger. Jian. Lin Hai stood in the courtyard alone. He didn't go back to his dorm. Instead he waited. And not long after Ruelan arrived, hair unbraided, still half-dressed from sleep, a bag of herbs slung over one shoulder. She didn't say anything. She just looked at him. He looked back. I'm still me, he said. She nodded once. I can see that. She stepped forward and lightly tapped his forehead with 2 fingers. Next time bring backup. He smiled faintly. Next time I won't need it. She arched an eyebrow. Confidence. Dangerous in men with cursed marks. I prefer to call it balance. They sat together in the courtyard for a long time. Not speaking. Just breathing the same morning air, listening to the sounds of birds returning to the branches above. Somewhere deeper in the academy the day was beginning. But for Lin Hai it had already changed. System status, stable. Current alignment, self-directed. Sigil integrity, locked. Trait, threshold core, active. Skill, echo cut, LV2. Passive, battle reflection. New status effect, quiet resolve. You are no longer running. You are waiting for the moment to strike. The eye still watches, but now you watch back. Lin Hai stood as the first bell rang from the east tower. He looked up at the academy, quiet but alive. The eye hadn't broken him. And he hadn't sealed it away. He had claimed the line between fear and fury, and made it his own. Lin Hai returned to Eastwind like a ghost re-entering his own story. No announcement. No ceremony. Just quiet stares as he walked through the training yard. Students stopped mid-swing. Conversations dropped. He caught fragments. Is that him? 3 days underground. Did you hear what happened to Wu Xin? He's not even cuffed. Lin Hai kept walking. He wasn't angry. He wasn't ashamed. He simply was, and that, more than anything, made them wary. By midday the academy air had changed. During lecture, the senior instructor of spirit theory paused mid-sentence when Lin Hai stepped into the class. Not out of fear. Out of calculation. Every move Lin Hai made, every breath, was being measured. He took his usual seat near the window. Kuro curled at his feet, tail wrapped tightly around his body like a coiled shadow. Ruelan arrived late, dropped into the seat beside him and whispered without looking. You're officially more famous than the swordmaster's granddaughter. Is that good? Only if you like being followed. He glanced toward the balcony. A shadow moved. A figure stood beyond the glass, dressed in muted green-gray robes. Military cut. Polished insignia. A calm, almost sterile stance. They vanished a moment later. System alert, external cultivation field detected. Classification, suppression tune chi field. Source, unknown. Affiliation match, silent banner, military surveillance division. After class, Jian didn't speak to him. But his gaze lingered longer than it should have. And he wasn't alone. Lin Hai passed two unfamiliar students near the inner courtyard. Older. Too calm. Their uniforms bore slight adjustments. Tighter cuffs, reinforced collars, no insignias. Not academy trained. He nodded as he passed. They didn't return it. But one of them tapped a jade slip the moment Lin Hai moved on. That evening Ruelan cornered him behind the apothecary tower. You've got new shadows, she said. And I don't mean the creepy cult kind. Military? Worse, she muttered. Silent banner. I dug through my uncle's records. Lin Hai leaned back against the wall, arms crossed. Tell me. They're the ones the Empire sends when something can't be publicly acknowledged. Plagues, dark spirit infestations, rogue echo mutations. And me. They're not here to understand you, Lin Hai. They're here to decide what box to put you in. If none fits. They bury the box, he finished. She handed him a sealed scroll. That's from Instructor Jian. Slipped it under my door, said to give it to you directly. He broke the seal and unrolled it. Be careful. They aren't here to see if you're dangerous. They're here to confirm it. J. That night, Lin Hai walked alone through the Eastern meditation path, usually empty after curfew. But not tonight. A man stood in the middle of the stone bridge watching the koi pond below. He turned as Lin Hai approached. Average height. Late 30s. Silver-threaded hair. Mirror-polished eyes that didn't blink. No weapon visible. But Lin Hai felt it. Authority. You're Lin Hai, the man said. You're not part of the academy. The man smiled faintly. Correct. System ping, identity confirmed. Name Yuhan. Rank, commander. Affiliation, silent banner, echo containment unit. I'm not here to detain you, you said. Or threaten you. Then why are you here? To observe. To learn. And to offer possibilities. Lin Hai didn't move. You stabilized your sigil, you continued. First in 21 years. I didn't do it for you. Of course not. You tilted his head. But you did it. And now the eye is looking through you. Others will be drawn to it. People. Power. Conflict. Lin Hai clenched his fist. What do you want from me? You stepped forward. Nothing yet. Then handed him a polished jade slip. When you're ready to stop walking alone, you said, open that. It contains the name of a cultist currently embedded in Eastwind. He turned, walking away without another word. His final sentence was almost lost to the wind. The eyes game is centuries old. The only way to beat it is to play it back. Lin Hai stared at the slip. Didn't open it. Not yet. He looked down at his hand, where the sigil rested quietly under his skin. And for the first time in days, it was quiet, but not still. Lin Hai sat alone on the edge of the roof above the academy library, the moonlight casting pale reflections on the tiles beneath him. He turned the jade slip in his fingers for the 100th time. It was smooth, sealed with the tri-line etching of the silent banner, 3 cuts across an empty circle. Meant to symbolize containment. Clean, controlled. Cool. When you're ready to stop walking alone, you had said. Lin Hai wasn't ready. But he opened it anyway. The seal dissolved with a shimmer of chi. Words appeared written in tight black script. Target of interest, Shan Yu. Role, Assistant Spiritual Cultivation Instructor. Status, Suspected High-Level Whispering Eyes Infiltrator. Direct sightings, none. Behavioral flags, Emotionless state shifts, Inconsistent spirit pressure signature, Deviation from public record. Lin Hai stared at the name. Shan Yu. He knew that name. Everyone at Eastwind did. Instructor Shan was soft-spoken, middle-aged, always wore gloves during spirit training. Known for his knowledge of memory-based chi and emotional threading techniques. Lin Hai had taken 2 seminars with him. He was boring. The kind of man who handed out recovery pills to overworked students. Not the kind of man you expected to be a cultist. And that made it worse. Because that's exactly how you'd hide someone like him. System warning, sigil tension detected. Triggered, high-stress recognition pattern. Status, stable. Reaction, passive awareness only. Lin Hai breathed out through his teeth and closed the slip. He didn't trust you. But the eye didn't lie about danger. And the name on that slip, it triggered something inside him. Not fear. Not anger. Just the feeling that the game had moved forward again. He met Ruelan near the apothecary garden just before dawn. She had a bruise on her shoulder and bandages around her fingers, minor burn damage from a failed pill compression test. Nothing serious. But it made her look tired. Human. He told her everything. The jade slip. The name. Commander Yu's offer. Her reaction was instant. Shanyu, she said, eyes wide. That's impossible. He healed my spirit thread fracture last semester. He helped people. That's what they do. No, she said. You don't know that yet. You've seen monsters. You've fought them. But this is a man. What if Yu's just testing you? Seeing if you'll bite. I don't think he needs to test me. You don't know he's right. I don't need proof to be careful. She stepped back, folding her arms. And what happens when this becomes all you see, Lin Hai? What happens when every shadow is a cultist? Every smile a threat? He hesitated. Then I'll deal with it. She stared at him. Not angry. Not scared. Just sad. Don't become something you'd have fought last month. Later that morning, Lin Hai was summoned to a restricted pavilion near the North Ridge, a military clearance area built into the cliffs overlooking Eastwind's outer wall. Inside, Yuhan waited, standing beside a long black table covered in sealed scrolls and scentless incense. This is a quiet place, Yu said, gesturing for Lin Hai to sit. Even the wind doesn't carry here. Let's skip the poetry, Lin Hai said. You want me to spy on a teacher? No. I want you to observe. And confirm. You've seen the eye's effects. You've felt its presence. You're attuned. Which means I'm useful to you. It means you're valuable to everyone, you corrected. But that also makes you vulnerable. I'm offering balance. Lin Hai narrowed his eyes. And the price. You reached under the table and placed a folded talisman onto the surface. System ping, artifact identified. Item, sigil drift barrier. Function, slow secondary mark spread in early stage exposure. Target affinity lock, Ruelan. Lin Hai's pulse jumped. What did you do to her? Nothing, you said calmly. But she was marked, partially. Low-level residue during your last shared trial. Left unchecked, it will evolve. This talisman keeps it dormant. Then give it to her. I'm offering it to you. You folded his hands. Help me confirm the cultist. Deliver the results personally. I'll give you this. And your friend keeps her soul. Lin Hai stood, fists clenched. You could have led with the threat. This isn't a threat, you said. It's a choice. You stabilized your mark. That makes you dangerous to the eye, and useful to us. Lin Hai picked up the talisman. It was light. Too light for something that could protect someone. Or control them. You're doing the right thing, you said. I'm not doing this for you, Lin Hai replied. Of course not. Back in his dorm, Lin Hai placed the talisman on the desk beside the fragment. Neither glowed. But both felt like they were watching each other. And he sat in the center, quiet, no longer wondering if he was hunted. Now he knew. Everyone wanted a piece of him. The eye, the academy, the banner. And maybe, just maybe, one of them had already taken it. According to this, Ruelan whispered, holding the tablet up to catch the lantern light, Instructor Shan joined Eastwind 11 years ago. Lin Hai frowned. That's impossible. I found a student testimonial quoting him from 14 years ago. They stood in the pill archive wing again, quiet, cold, the stone walls covered in stacked scroll racks. Ruelan's fingers moved quickly across the wooden slate, cross-referencing class assignments and instructor records. Look at this, she muttered, scrolling down. Shan Yu's spiritual signature was recorded for chi pressure tests every year, until 3 years ago. Then it stopped. Why? No one knows. Official reason? Stability achieved. Recertification waived. Lin Hai leaned over her shoulder. That's not just lazy paperwork. That's a gap. A void. A gate. He looked at her. She nodded grimly. There's a recording chamber under the instructor barracks. It's supposed to be sealed. Rumor says it belonged to an elder cultivator who cracked during a Veil incursion. The academy built over it. Lin Hai didn't hesitate. Show me the way. They reached the old chamber after midnight, weaving through back corridors and maintenance lifts. It was behind a locked gate, ruined with silence wards, forgotten under layers of dust and moss. Ruelan broke the final talisman with a carefully brewed acid seal. The stone door shifted inward, slow and groaning. The air inside smelled like ash and incense long since burned out. The walls bore spirals. Shallow. Precise. Carved with fingertip patience. At the center of the room was a circle. Not a training seal. Not a meditation field. A ritual array. Etched in blood-colored resin. Not complete. But close. System alert, cultic residue detected. Structure. Whispering Eyes Ritual Gate, Type 1, unfinished. Purpose, sigil transference. Risk, moderate. Status, inactive. Secondary trigger node, hidden. Kuro hissed beside Lin Hai. Something watched them from the walls. Then the guardian moved. It wasn't human. It wasn't beast. It was folded memory, a shape made of stitched-together shadows, roughly humanoid, with too many joints and a face stretched like silk across bone. Eyes covered its chest and arms. All blinking. All watching. Echo construct, guardian tier. Spirit type, memory warden. Combat level, intermediate. Immunities, illusion, fear-based disruption. Weakness, anchor core within sigil ring. It didn't roar. It simply advanced. Fast. Lin Hai stepped forward, drawing obsidian fang. Ruelan began charging a suppression charm, but the creature turned and lashed out. The strike landed across her shoulder, flinging her back, crashing her into the wall. She hit hard and didn't rise. Lin Hai's vision blurred red. He stepped between the creature and her body. You shouldn't have touched her. He activated Mind Fire Pulse. Skill activated, Mind Fire Pulse. Effect, 10-meter psychic disruption burst. Status, Echo construct stunned 5 seconds. The air exploded with invisible pressure. The guardian shrieked silently, shadows peeling back, limbs distorting, eyes bleeding light. Lin Hai didn't wait. He stepped into flowing iron fist, enhanced by battle rhythm, and struck its chest. Once, twice, 3 times. Obsidian fang followed, carving through memory-warped flesh. He drove it through the sigil core. The entire construct rippled and shattered like burning parchment. Silence fell. He rushed to Ruelan. She was awake, gasping, clutching her arm. Just bruised, she muttered through gritted teeth. Hit like a falling building. He helped her sit up. She looked past him. To the ritual circle. To the floor. Lin Hai, she said slowly. Look. He turned and saw it. A second sigil, smaller, carved into the inner ring. Almost hidden. His breath caught. It was identical to his own. System scan, sigil match, 94%. Status, dormant. Ownership, unknown. Residue age, 7 days. 7 days. Someone else had been here. And the sigil hadn't just been etched. It had been left. Ruelan stood, swaying slightly, and stared at the ring. This wasn't meant for you. No, Lin Hai said. It was meant for someone else. Kuro hissed again, eyes fixed on the sigil. Lin Hai crouched beside it, hand hovering over the mark. He didn't touch it. Didn't need to. Because the energy in the air, the pressure, it recognized him. Not as intruder, but as predecessor. The wind outside the infirmary tower was cold and quiet. Ruelan sat on the edge of the medical bed, her robe pulled half off her shoulder, exposing the bandage where the echo construct had struck. Her skin shimmered faintly beneath it, not glowing but not natural either. Lin Hai stood nearby, arms crossed, jaw tight. Does it hurt? He asked. She shook her head. No. Just tingles. Like static. Only when I meditate. Chi thread interference? Maybe. She looked at him. Or maybe it's something else. Neither said the word. They didn't need to. That night, Lin Hai meditated alone in the underlevel sanctuary, obsidian fang resting across his knees. The fragment pulsed beside him. The system flickered once. Status update, sigil, stable. Alert, external signature detected. Match rating, 42%. Type, dormant veil reaction. Subject Ruelan. Stage 0. Lin Hai opened his eyes slowly. The fragment beside him stopped pulsing. It wasn't angry. It was waiting. Ruelan's spirit threads began fluttering during her morning cultivation. The instructors called it energy echo. Jian called it chi drift. But Lin Hai knew better. It wasn't the threads. It was the eye. It had touched her. Just once. And that was enough. You need to let me test you, he said 2 days later, standing in her family's private garden outside the pill wing. Absolutely not, Ruelan said. If the mark's in you, then I'll burn it out myself. Don't be stupid. I'm not being stupid, she snapped. I'm being me. And the me I am doesn't let a curse define my worth. He stepped forward. And what if it starts whispering? Then you'll stop me, she said. Isn't that what you promised? He hesitated, then nodded. But deep down he hated it. Because this wasn't about willpower anymore. This was about proximity. And the eye was learning. That night, Lin Hai lit 3 incense sticks and sat on the sanctuary floor. He activated the coin of reflection. And the world shifted. He stood in a space of spirals, black sand, white sky, 1,000 floating mirrors turning slowly above his head. One of them spun toward him. And inside he saw it. Eastwind Academy. Students walking, training, laughing. But in the reflection, 7 of them glowed faint red around the chest. Faint. Like smoldering embers. Ruelan was one. But she wasn't alone. Others too. One of them he recognized. Manhwa. His old friend. The one who used to spar with him every morning before class. The one who hadn't spoken to him since the dungeon trial. The one who had laughed and said, "You're not cursed, you're just unlucky." In the mirror she turned toward him. And her eyes were solid black. Vision ended. Fragment reaction. Defensive. Warning. Secondary mark network detected. Status, pre-awakening. Comment. You are no longer the only one the eye watches. You may not be the only one it speaks to. He stood at the edge of the courtyard the next morning as Min Shui passed with her usual group. She didn't look at him. Didn't speak. But the moment she passed, he felt it. A pressure, faint and fleeting, but identical to what he had once felt, in himself. That evening Rui Lan found him sharpening obsidian fang beside the sanctuary pond. She didn't ask if he'd seen something. She just sat beside him, eyes on the water. Someone else is marked, he said softly. I figured, she said. They sat in silence for a while. Then she looked at him, voice quiet. Is this what we're doing now? Hunting friends? No, he said. But I won't let them fall if I can stop it. And if they already have? Lin Hai stared at the blade in his hand. Then at his reflection in the pond. If the eye used me to spread. He let the thought die there. Status updated, external sigils detected. 3. Status, dormant. Action recommended, observation. Note, one sigil resonates with your own fragment. The door to the hidden chamber groaned open once more. Dust clung to the spirals carved into the walls. The half-finished ritual ring sat in silence, still faintly resonating with unseen power. Lin Hai stepped inside alone. Obsidian fang at his back. Kuro padding silently beside him. No Ruelan this time. She hadn't asked to come. He hadn't asked her to. He knelt beside the second sigil, the one not meant for him, and placed the fragment gently in the center. The stone beneath it responded instantly. Red lines lit beneath the surface, spreading like cracks in glass. The entire circle hummed. System alert, vision tether detected. Construct type, sigil echo link. Initiating partial synchronization. Warning, psychological risk level, high. Proceed? Yes. The world rippled. And Lin Hai dropped into darkness. He stood in a dim chamber. Stone walls. Black banners hanging with eye-shaped insignias. Incense coiled in the air like smoke from a corpse pyre. 2 figures stood in the center. One cloaked in brown, their back turned. The other, a mask. No eye. No mouth. Just smooth bone-white surface. A faceless one. Their voice echoed from nowhere and everywhere. The boy stabilized his mark. The cloaked figure bowed slightly. Exactly as you said he would. He's stronger than the last one. Because he didn't resist. The faceless one tilted its head. No. Because he refused to submit. It made him clearer. It carved him sharper. They moved to a raised basin filled with still, black water. The surface rippled. Lin Hai's face appeared in it. He is the first anchor. He carries the gate, the cloaked figure whispered. Not yet, said the faceless one. But soon. Others will follow his line. And when enough eyes open around him. Their fingers traced the water. We will walk through. The vision twisted again. Lin Hai stood in the courtyard. Ruelan sat on the edge of a bench, her hands glowing faintly with unstable chi. Min Shui stood nearby, alone, watching. Then the world shifted once more. And he saw himself. Older. Stronger. Wearing the mask. Standing atop a staircase, 7 marked students kneeling behind him. Tether complete. External anchor confirmed. Network status, active. Result, the eye is not spreading to destroy. It is building. Through you. Lin Hai staggered out of the vision. The chamber was still glowing faintly. Kuro hissed at the sigil ring, its edges now cracked as if resisting its own collapse. Lin Hai didn't speak. He stared at the fragment in his hand. Then at his own reflection in the curved blade of obsidian fang. And he asked the one question the system couldn't answer. Was I ever meant to resist? Later that night, Jian found him seated alone on the outer garden wall, gaze fixed on the stars. You're quiet, Jian said. I heard something, Lin Hai replied. Voices. Intent. Jian said nothing for a while. Then sat beside him. Intent can be killed, he said finally. But only if you recognize it early. They don't want me to fall, Lin Hai whispered. They want me to stand. So others can gather beneath me. Then you'll have to choose, Jian said. Whether you build something real, or let them use you to build something wrong. As dawn crept over the hills, Lin Hai finally stood. The sigil on his arm was still. The fragment silent. But now he knew why. The eye wasn't watching him anymore. It was waiting. For the rest of the world to catch up. The academy bells didn't ring for Jin Tao that morning. The second-year student had been scheduled for a chi circulation refinement drill at sunrise. Instead, his courtyard dorm was found with the door slightly open, his robes neatly folded on the bed, and his identity jade cracked in half beside his pillow. System ping, residue detected. Echo signature present. Sigil type, Class 1, spontaneous manifestation. Time since detonation, 6 hours. Status, host missing. The silent banner arrived by noon. 3 officers. No questions. Just scans. By dusk, Jin Tao's name had been removed from the student bulletin roster. Lin Hai stood by the outer balcony of the spirit training wing, arms crossed, watching the wind pull gently at the flame-shaped prayer flags. Behind him, students trained. But fewer than usual. People were beginning to avoid each other. Small silences grew where groups used to talk. And the tension, spiritual, emotional, hung thick in the air like fog before lightning. Jian joined him, carrying a sealed folder marked with a red X. His mark matched yours, Jian said. Less stable. But nearly identical. Lin Hai didn't look away from the sky. That makes 3. 4, Jian corrected. There was another surge last night. In the meditation halls. Who? We don't know yet. They covered their tracks better than Tao did. And Manhwa. Jian was quiet for a moment. Then handed him a slip of parchment. It showed a surge pattern, curved and spiraling, similar to the pulse signature Lin Hai's mark had given off during his first stabilization. Her spirit pressure's changing, Jian said. You're not the only one who's starting to draw in echoes. She hasn't fallen, Lin Hai said quietly. Maybe not. Jian looked at him. But she's not standing still either. That night, Lin Hai sat in the underlevel sanctuary, surrounded by the faint scratch of ink and the flickering glow of candles. 7 circles had been etched into the floor during his last vision, each identical, spaced evenly in a ring. 3 of them now shimmered faintly. His own. Jin Tao's. A third, unknown. He didn't touch them. He just sat in the middle, breathing, trying to feel which way the world was shifting. Ruelan entered quietly, dressed in her training robe, hair tied back, a white bandage still wrapped around her arm from the construct attack. She didn't speak. She just sat across from him and looked down at the glowing rings. I dreamed of the circle last night, she said. Only, I wasn't in it. I was watching it. Watching me. Not you. Something else. She looked up. It was behind you. Tall. Silent. Its hand on your shoulder. He didn't react. Because he'd seen it too. System update, sigil sympathy detected. Subject Ruelan. Synchronization spike, 12%. Stage, pre-echo. Recommendation, emotional restraint or isolation. Note, sympathy thresholds increase in bonded subjects. I think I'm changing too, Ruelan said, voice soft. I don't hear whispers. But I can feel when you're scared. I can feel it when your mark moves. He looked at her. Do you want to pull away? She held his gaze. No. I want to know how to stand here without breaking. He nodded once. Then slid one of the loose training crystals across the floor toward her. She caught it. And smiled. The next morning, Lin Hai stood outside the Eastern Training Pavilion where Manhwa practiced. He watched as she struck through her drills. Clean. Powerful. Efficient. But her chi was sharper than it had ever been. Her footwork tighter. Her strikes resonated slightly too much with the air. He stepped into her space after her final strike. She turned, brow lifted. Didn't expect you to come down from the mountain, she said with a smirk. Didn't think you'd still be hiding behind drills, he answered. Not hiding, she said. Sharpening. Her eyes gleamed. He studied her closely. You felt it, haven't you? She didn't deny it. I don't know what it is, she said. But I felt awake for the first time in months. You're marked. She tilted her head. And you're not dead. Min, this thing isn't a gift. But it is a door, isn't it? She asked quietly. You walked through it. Why shouldn't I? He took a step closer. Because not everyone comes back. Maybe I don't want to come back. They locked eyes. Her aura flared for a moment, just a flicker, but Lin Hai felt the pull. She wasn't being twisted. She was choosing. Later that night she was gone. Her dorm room was empty. A spiral was burned into the wall. This time in black. The message came at dusk. Delivered by Spirit Dove. Untraceable. Unmarked. Lin Hai unfurled the thin parchment and read the 2 words written in sharp, clean script. Come see. It wasn't signed. But it didn't need to be. He recognized the handwriting. Manhwa. By the time Lin Hai reached the outskirts of Eastwind's sacred boundary line, the mist was already curling up from the cliffs. Kuro stalked beside him, silent and alert. His claws barely made a sound on the worn stone path. Ruelan wanted to come. He told her no. This wasn't about curiosity. This was a reckoning. The ritual gate had appeared in the ruins of an old spiritual orchard, long abandoned after the war. It stood now like a wound in the world, carved spirals in the dirt, 7 stone markers pushed into the ground at deliberate angles. And standing at the center, Manhwa. She wasn't alone. On her left, Jin Tao, eyes dull, mark glowing faintly beneath the collar of his robes. On her right, a figure Lin Hai didn't recognize, slim, masked, with a strange ripple in their chi signature that suggested illusion or unstable identity. Manhwa saw him and smiled. I knew you'd come, she said. Her voice was the same. But there was something colder beneath it now. System alert, sigil synchronization detected. Source, Manhwa, 74%. Jin Tao, 91%. Third entity, unknown mark type. Ritual status, activating. Purpose, Gate-piercing, trial class. Lin Hai stepped forward, hand resting on obsidian fong. You don't have to go through with this. I already did, Min Shui said. I just wanted you to see it. Why? Because we're not cursed, Lin Hai. We're chosen. You don't believe that. Don't I? Her eyes shimmered. You stabilized. You walked the line. I watched you. We all did. And if you could survive it, then why can't we master it? Jin Tao stepped forward, silent, eyes glowing red for a flicker of a second before fading. He doesn't talk anymore, Min Shui said. The eye took his voice, but it gave him focus. The masked figure didn't move. Who's that? Lin Hai asked. Someone who lost everything, Min Shui said, and found purpose in the voice beneath the voice. She turned slightly, gesturing to the gate. This isn't rebellion. It's evolution. You don't understand what the eye is building. I understand enough, she said. It doesn't want destruction. It wants order. You think you're a resistance? You're just the first brick. Then let me tear down the foundation. At that moment, figures burst from the surrounding trees. Silent banner operatives, 5 of them, robes gray, eyes glowing faintly with surveillance scripts, weapons drawn. By military command, you are to stand down, one shouted. Min Shui's smile didn't break. I was hoping they'd show. Ritual triggered. Partial gate opened, echo storm incoming. Combat zone established. Lin Hai, status, synced. Objective, prevent stabilization or fragment retrieval. Lin Hai didn't wait. He surged forward, flowing iron fist active, mind focused, obsidian fong pulsing at his side. Jin Tao met him mid-charge. No hesitation. Just force. Their fists collided, Lin Hai's clean form versus Jin Tao's brute precision, now augmented by sigil enhancement. The shockwave sent both sliding back. Kuro blurred past Lin Hai and leapt toward the masked figure. His claws met a ripple of illusion and scattered the projection. The real body landed several meters away, still hidden. Lin Hai turned to Min Shui. She raised a hand. A spiral of chi burst outward, knocking 2 banner operatives into the trees. Warning, spiral core resonance detected. Type, pre-stabilization pulse. Risk, emotional imprint. You're losing yourself. Lin Hai shouted. Min Shui stepped into his space. I'm finding my truth. They clashed. Her strikes were faster than before. Cleaner. Sharper. But Lin Hai had something else. Battle reflection. He read her moves. He struck through her weakness. Obsidian Fong caught her shoulder and burned the spiral clean off her arm. She screamed, not in pain but in rage. You could have joined us, she hissed. You were never meant to follow. I'm not following the eye, Lin Hai said. I'm walking ahead of it. The masked figure lunged toward the ritual gate with a sigil fragment in hand. But Ruelan arrived. She had come anyway. She hurled a charm seal with perfect aim, exploding into a binding net of white flame. The figure collapsed to the ground, shrieking in 2 voices. Capture successful, fragment stabilized. Identity, obscured. Gender, unknown. Status, in stasis. Min Shui saw the collapse. Faltered. Then turned and ran through the half-open gate. It shimmered and sealed behind her. Silence fell over the clearing. 2 operatives down. 1 figure restrained. 1 fragment retrieved. And 1 marked gone, fully through the eye's doorway. Lin Hai stood alone at the gate's edge. He looked down at the smoldering ground where the spiral had been, and saw a message scorched into the earth. The second eye has passed. The gate was gone by morning. Vanished without a trace. The spiral burned into the ground had faded as if washed by rain. Even the stones that once marked the corners of the ritual had cracked cleanly down the center. But the energy still lingered, like a scream held in the air just below hearing. And 1 student, Min Shui, was now officially declared missing. No body. No trace. No pursuit. Inside the inner council chamber of Eastwind Academy, Instructor Jian stood before 3 representatives of the Silent Banner. Yuhan as always was calm. You allowed a marked student to disappear under your watch, said one officer. She was not detained because she hadn't committed a crime, Jian replied. She has now, you said. This is still an academy. You stepped forward, slow and deliberate. It stopped being just an academy when your student, Lin Hai, walked out of Black Vein Cavern alive. At the same time, Lin Hai sat cross-legged in the underlevel sanctuary. 2 faintly glowing shards floated in front of him, fragments retrieved from Jin Tao and the masked figure now in stasis. The spirals inside them pulsed with low resonance. System sync, multi-sigil fragment detected. Processing echo signature. Fragment 1, stabilized, can be integrated. Fragment 2, unstable, emotionally charged. Origin match, unknown female host. Status, memory locked. He focused on the first one. It floated to his palm and dissolved into his skin. New trait gained, echo drift. Description. Lin Hai can now tune his spiritual perception to trace other partially awakened sigils nearby. Range, 200 meters. Accuracy, high. Side effect, minor emotional sync with marked individuals. He exhaled slowly. Then turned to the second fragment, but didn't absorb it. Not yet. Something about it was heavy, like it remembered pain, and wanted to share it. That evening Ruilan came to him. Her robes were wrinkled, her face drawn. I saw Min Shui in my dream, she said. Lin Hai tensed. What did she say? She didn't say anything. Ruilan paused. She looked right at me, and the dream felt like it wasn't mine. He reached out. Her chi threads trembled faintly beneath the surface of her skin. Not corrupted, but interlinked. Alert, emotional bond detected. Subject Ruilan. Thread link, dual sync, unintentional. Status, active. Emotional fluctuation, 3.2. Recommended action, meditation or controlled separation. I'm not afraid of it, she whispered. But I don't know what it wants. Neither do I, Lin Hai said. But I think, the eye wants circles. It doesn't want one wielder. It wants a ring. She met his gaze. You think we're part of that? I think we already are. Later that night, Lin Hai fell into a light trance beside the sanctuary pool. The fragments pulsed softly beside him. He felt a tug, not from the mark, but from beneath it. And in that moment he was pulled into a constructed dream. He stood at the center of a great amphitheater. Stone. Dust. Silence. 7 thrones circled the arena. 6 were empty. One held a seated figure, robed in black and silver, face shadowed, hands resting on their knees. Not a faceless one. Not a cultist. Someone older. Stranger. They spoke in Lin Hai's voice, but older, deeper, slower. You cannot stop the eyes. You can only decide which one will be yours. Another spiral flared in the air above the thrones. The image of Min Shui, now wearing robes stitched with red thread and silver eyes, appeared for a moment, then faded. A second image began forming. And this time, it looked like Ruilan. System alert, dream construct breached. Awakening initiated. Warning, emotional bond threshold nearing critical. Lin Hai jolted awake, breath ragged. Ruilan sat across from him, eyes wide, her palm pressed against the floor. They had both dreamed it. Together. That morning, the floor of the sanctuary was different. Someone, or something, had carved 7 spirals in a new pattern. 3 were now glowing. 1 pulsed faint red. The others were waiting. The academy was changing. Not loud. Not sudden. But undeniable. Where once there were communal drills, now there were splintered groups. Some students whispered about the echo scars. Others used the term spiraled. A few had taken to wearing black sashes, knotted at the shoulder like Lin Hai's mark, whether they were chosen or not. Instructor Jian tried to keep discipline. But Lin Hai could feel it. Not fear. Not curiosity. Direction. The eye had begun to offer it. And students were starting to choose sides. You've become something between a symbol and a threat, Jian said, pacing the meditation chamber beside Lin Hai. To half the academy, you're proof that the mark can be tamed. To the other half, I'm proof it can't be stopped, Lin Hai finished. Jian stopped in front of him. Don't underestimate that second half. Fear builds faster than loyalty. At the same time, Ruilan sat in the vault beneath the East Tower, turning through an old leather-bound manual dusted with seal ash and preservation ink. She'd found it hidden behind a crumbling wall, sealed in a locked drawer beneath one of Zhen Liao's abandoned meditation stones. The cover bore no title. Just a carved spiral, and a line beneath it. For the 7th who stands. Inside were pages of hand-drawn diagrams. Stances. Breath techniques. Emotion-triggered chi channeling. But what caught her breath was a passage halfway through. A mark cannot be rejected. Only redirected. If one becomes the eye, then they must choose the lens through which the world is seen. She closed the book, eyes wide. They had been thinking of the mark as a parasite. But it might be a mirror. Later that night, Ruilan handed the book to Lin Hai in the sanctuary. He turned the pages slowly. This was written by someone like me, he said. Someone who lived, she replied. And died, he added. Fighting alone, she finished. System sync, manual detected. Zhen Liao's doctrine. Unlocking advanced techniques. Resonant step, temporarily align movement with a bonded echo bearer, allowing reactive defense. Dual fragment sync. Activate 2 stabilized fragments in harmony. Increase memory imprint resonance. Echo sight, LV.1C briefly through another mark's perspective while link is active. Caution, dual fragment sync increases tether strength to marked circle. Emotional fallout possible. Lin Hai breathed in, closed the book, and said softly, I want to learn it all. Ruilan looked at him. You don't have to lead this. No, he said standing. But I do have to stand. So they know it can be done. The next day, another marked student approached him during combat drills. Her name was He Lifan, a short, intense 3rd year with copper-brown hair and lightning affinity. She'd never spoken to Lin Hai before. But she walked up to him, looked him straight in the eye and said, "I've seen the circle. I dreamed it before you did." He blinked. "You're marked." She rolled up her sleeve. The spiral was incomplete, but it pulsed softly beneath her skin. "I've resisted it for months," she said. "But after seeing what you did with Manhwa, I think I know what it wants. Then fight it." "I don't want to fight it." She stepped closer. "I want to use it." "And if it uses you?" She smirked. "Then I make sure it gets something worth borrowing." That evening, Lin Hai meditated with two fragments active, Jin Tao's, and the unnamed one from the mass student. They pulsed in harmony, but at different rhythms. Dual fragment sync, active. Memory link, partial. Vision construct, engaged. He saw a battlefield. Broken banners. 7 marked figures. He stood among them, older, battle-scarred, eyes glowing faintly. In his hands was a blade that burned with echo light. The others weren't faceless. They were Lan, Elifan, Jin Tao, Manhwa, and 3 he had yet to meet. But they stood behind him. Not as cultists. Not as enemies. As his circle. And on the horizon, 100 spiral-eyed masks stared back. System comet, choice defines echo. The eye watches all. But you choose where it looks. Fragment integration, 2 of 7. Circle status, forming. The academy was changing. Not loud. Not sudden. But undeniable. Where once there were communal drills, now there were splintered groups. Some students whispered about the echo scars. Others used the term spiraled. A few had taken to wearing black sashes, knotted at the shoulder like Lin Hai's mark, whether they were chosen or not. Instructor Jian tried to keep discipline. But Lin Hai could feel it. Not fear. Not curiosity. Direction. The eye had begun to offer it. And students were starting to choose sides. "You've become something between a symbol and a threat," Jian said, pacing the meditation chamber beside Lin Hai. "To half the academy, you're proof that the mark can be tamed. To the other half, I'm proof it can't be stopped," Lin Hai finished. Jian stopped in front of him. "Don't underestimate that second half. Fear builds faster than loyalty." At the same time, Lan sat in the vault beneath the East Tower, turning through an old leather-bound manual dusted with seal ash and preservation ink. She'd found it hidden behind a crumbling wall, sealed in a locked drawer beneath one of Zhen Liao's abandoned meditation stones. The cover bore no title. Just a carved spiral, and a line beneath it. "For the 7th who stands." Inside were pages of hand-drawn diagrams. Stances. Breath techniques. Emotion-triggered chi channeling. But what caught her breath was a passage halfway through. A mark cannot be rejected. Only redirected. If one becomes the eye, then they must choose the lens through which the world is seen. She closed the book, eyes wide. They had been thinking of the mark as a parasite. But it might be a mirror. Later that night, Lan handed the book to Lin Hai in the sanctuary. He turned the pages slowly. "This was written by someone like me," he said. "Someone who lived," she replied. "And died," he added. "Fighting alone," she finished. System sync, manual detected, Zhen Liao's doctrine. Unlocking advanced techniques. Resonant step, temporarily align movement with a bonded echo bearer, allowing reactive defense. Dual fragment sync, activate 2 stabilized fragments in harmony. Increase memory imprint resonance. Echo sight, LV.1 briefly through another mark's perspective while link is active. Caution, dual fragment sync increases tether strength to marked circle. Emotional fallout possible. Lin Hai breathed in, closed the book, and said softly, "I want to learn it all." Lan looked at him. "You don't have to lead this." "No," he said, standing. "But I do have to stand. So they know it can be done." The next day, another marked student approached him during combat drills. Her name was Elifan, a short, intense third year with copper-brown hair and lightning affinity. She'd never spoken to Lin Hai before. But she walked up to him, looked him straight in the eye and said, "I've seen the circle. I dreamed it before you did." He blinked. "You're marked." She rolled up her sleeve. The spiral was incomplete, but it pulsed softly beneath her skin. "I've resisted it for months," she said. "But after seeing what you did with Manhwa, I think I know what it wants. Then fight it." "I don't want to fight it." She stepped closer. "I want to use it." "And if it uses you?" She smirked. "Then I make sure it gets something worth borrowing." That evening, Lin Hai meditated with 2 fragments active, Jin Tao's, and the unnamed one from the mass student. They pulsed in harmony, but at different rhythms. Dual fragment sync, active. Memory link, partial. Vision construct, engaged. He saw a battlefield. Broken banners. 7 marked figures. He stood among them, older, battle-scarred, eyes glowing faintly. In his hands was a blade that burned with echo light. The others weren't faceless. They were Lan, Elifan, Jin Tao, Manhwa, and 3 he had yet to meet. But they stood behind him. Not as cultists. Not as enemies. As his circle. and on the horizon, 100 spiral-eyed masks stared back. System comment, choice defines echo. The eye watches all, but you choose where it looks. Fragment integration, 2 of 7. Circle status,